Chapter 1546. Shun Mo and the others, who had retreated, also stood up shakily. Their clothes were already covered in blood. Their ragged clothes were tattered, and their hair fluttered in the wind. Using his soul to spy on Lin Xiao, he was still conscious. Then he raised his eyes and looked behind Lin Xiao, and was immediately shocked. Who is this person? He actually has such a tyrannical strength. Just at this time, Zhang Dan also pointed at the Li clan's ancestral temple and said, Brother Hao, look, someone came out. Whoosh whoosh. With the sound of something breaking through the air, light gathered inside the Li clan's ancestral temple, and energy suddenly exploded like a small sun. The gorgeous energy light surged like a rainbow, and the pressure was impressive, directly pouncing on everyone. Two afterimages suddenly arrived. One was quiet and dark green. The other was blazing like the sun. They carried the fury of thunder, as if the god of death had come into being. Zhang Dan and Sun Hao, who were hiding behind a rock, were more surprised than frightened. Their eyeballs seemed to be about to fall out of their eye sockets, and two sparkling and translucent tears even gushed out from the corners of their eyes. Damn, it's Duan Hong and Mo Qing. They came out. Zhang Dan and Sun Hao shouted in unison, excitedly shouting. Everyone around them was a little surprised. When did the Nine Lords become so united? Why would two unknown people be so concerned about them? On the side, Lin Xiao had already shakily stood up and stood shoulder to shoulder with Shan Mo and the others. Blood slowly flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were cold as he looked at the two figures who suddenly arrived at the plaza. The two figures stood still, and their overflowing might was like a tornado, fast as lightning and peerlessly tyrannical. Who else could it be but Su Yi and Yunjing? The two of them came naturally, with smiles on their faces. Wearing golden clothes, they looked elegant and noble. Although they were still disguised, Su Yi's clothes and black hair fluttered behind him. The aura on his body was like that of a young war god, dazzling everyone. So many people are welcoming us, junior sister Mo Qing. The fellow disciples of the 100 Her Mountain Academy are very enthusiastic. Su Yi looked at everyone with a smile. His starry eyes moved, and his eyes were full of splendor. Su Yi was very happy to have gathered so many people, and he was very satisfied. Su Yi's body emitted a strong aura, and his feet were constantly flowing with mysterious and ancient patterns. They were like crude runes gushing out, and a mighty aura swept across the entire area like a storm. Yunjing also gently raised her hand, covered her mouth and laughed, and said to Shinamo and the others, That's right, junior brother Duan. These four seem to have just experienced a great battle. I don't know if they're here to welcome us or to die. Immediately, Lu Shuang raised the soft whip in her hand, and a purple light flew out in the shape of a dragon, whistling as it shot towards Yunjing's face. Su Yi frowned slightly. He casually shot out a stream of fire attribute Yuan Qi and turned the purple whip into nothingness. What? Lu Shuang, and everyone else present were horrified. Lu Shuang, of the two prefectures, was one of the top few in the entire 100 Herb Academy. Her full power attack had actually been easily neutralized by nobody. What kind of cultivation was this? How dare you? You actually dare. Lu Shuang's crescent brows knit together tightly, and the whip in her hand straightened once more. Her Yuan Qi condensed, and a formidable pressure suffused out from her hands. Swoosh! Would attribute Yuan Qi gushed out from Yunjing's body, and a green vine gushed out like a dragon to fiercely slap Lu Shuang's face, instantly leaving behind a bloody mark. My face. I'll kill you. Lu Shuang covered the wound on her face, and her eyes didn't lack valiance, but only boundless terror. Give me a small warning. I'm talking to junior brother Duan. Is it your turn to speak here? Say another word, and I'll pull out your tongue. Yunjing's cold gaze slightly rippled, and the corners of her mouth curled up as she looked at Lu Shuang, who was sobbing silently. At this moment, the atmosphere was cold to the extreme. Shin Mo swiftly walked over and sized Su-yi up from top to bottom. He felt that Su-yi only had a cultivation at the 6th level of the Origin Void stage, and he said, "You're Duan Hong?" Su-yi directly disregarded Shenmo's words and looked at the surroundings. He seemed to be searching for someone within the dense crowd, and he didn't want to pay attention to Shenmo, a friendly reminder. "Don't look at him like that. Especially you." Yin Jing's face gradually emitted coldness, and she spoke coldly with her cherry lips. "This young master is asking you a question. Answer me." Shenmo's face instantly flushed red when he saw Su. He didn't pay any attention to him, and the girl behind him seemed as if she was interrogating an ant. He, who'd always been arrogant, was actually looked down upon by an ant. Flames of rage arose in his heart, and the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer as he said, "I originally intended to spare your life, but it looks like there's no need. Ant of the 9 Mansions should go down to the underworld and recognize reality." Swoosh! Golden lights clanged. Sword howls pierced through the clouds and split rocks, and the sword lights that seemed to weave together once again ceaselessly pounced toward Su-yi. The dazzling and resplendent golden sword Qi carried along a violent gale and golden light, and it transformed the sand and rocks in the entire square into dust. Such a swift and violent strike caused the hearts of all the disciples present to tremble, as this sword strike was even more violent than Lin Xiu's strike from before. "Noisy! Shut up!" Su-yi was suffused with coldness. He was Duan Hong now, and he could bully the sacred mountain however he wanted. Bang! Su-yi stomped his foot down, causing the square to lightly shake, and the surroundings instantly rumbled without end. He didn't even circulate the Origin Supreme technique, and merely relied on the extremely dense spirit energy of the Void Divine Sea within his body. Su-yi's palm lightly moved, and fire attribute spirit energy soared into the sky. A fire dragon shot out violently, and a crimson bolt of lightning surged out explosively from Su-yi's sleeve, and the dragon-shaped flame opened its bloody mouth and directly shot towards the sword light. At the instant they came into contact, the sword light was as brittle as a piece of paper, and the peerlessly ferocious attack blasted Shenmo flying far away, drawing out a perfect arc in the sky. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire heaven and earth were suffused with crimson light, and the weak golden light was instantly annihilated into nothingness. Bright lights shot out explosively from Su-yi's eyes, and a type of pressure that seemed to have traversed the heavens and the earth suffused out from his body. Once again, the gazes of all the spectators were incomparably shocked. Shenmo's figure collided with an enormous rock, and the enormous rock instantly shattered into powder that drifted away. Who is this? How can he be so formidable? He's much more formidable than Shenmo, who's at the 8th level of the Origin Void stage. He can't be Duan Hong, right? So powerful. Why haven't I heard of him before? Quickly circulate your spirit energy. His cultivation is so strong. I feel like I can't breathe. The surrounding hundreds and thousands of cultivators all had a very uncomfortable feeling at this time, and their chests were obscure, as if they were clamped by an iron palm, and their spirit energy was stagnant. Behind the enormous rock, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan knew that they couldn't escape and could only come out in embarrassment. Sun Hao's face was squeezed together, and what Sun Hao didn't expect was that the Duan Hong in front of him seemed to be even stronger than before. No, he was abnormally strong. Shenmo, who was lying on the ground, was already vomiting blood. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide open, and his face was filled with disbelief. Chapter 1547. Senior Brother Shun. Qin Yu and Lu Shuang quickly flashed to Shenmo's side and examined him with their minds. Shenmo's meridians were mostly broken, and his injuries were extremely serious. Lu Shuang quickly took out a medicinal pill from her bosom and fed it to Shenmo. Lu Shuang turned around and coldly looked at Su-yi, her eyes full of hatred. Her hands were trembling, and her soft whip was bleeding from her tight grip. Whoosh! The atmosphere suddenly froze, and the onlookers were frightened. These two disciples were too strong. In just a few breaths, three of the strongest disciples were injured at the same time. This was definitely not something they could defeat with their cultivation. Looking at Sun Hao and Zhang Dan standing still, Su Yi frowned and said, "What are you still standing there for? Do you want me to grab you?" Rustle, rustle. Hearing Su Yi calling out to them at the entrance of the temple, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's legs suddenly went soft. They were stunned for a moment. The two of them supported each other, their faces ashen as they walked to Su Yi with great difficulty. "Don't you know how to greet others?" Yun Jing's beautiful eyes were cold, and her temperament was like that of a goddess. She angrily looked at the two trembling people. Yun Jing was in a good mood after beating up the disciples of the Holy Mountain. Ouyang Jinwei ruined her Black Fog Conference, and this debt was on these disciples. Bullying the disciples of the Holy Mountain in front of the Li clan's ancestral temple. The spirit of the Li clan in heaven should be gratified. Yun Jing looked at Su Yi in front of her and sighed in her heart. She knew that Su Yi wanted to do more for the Li clan. But Sun Hao's face was full of worry. There were thousands of pairs of eyes staring at him. It was too shameful to call his junior brother master in front of him. After hesitating for a long time, he looked up and met Su Yi's indifferent eyes. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat, clenched his teeth, and shouted loudly and respectfully, "Master, this lowly Sun Hao pays respect to you." After saying this, Sun Hao poked Zhang Dan's elbow. Zhang Dan's whole body trembled, and he immediately buried his head deeply. "This lowly Zhang Dan, I wish master and mistress a triumphant return." Whoa! As soon as the loud shout came out, everyone's mouth dropped to the ground. What was this situation? What? Isn't Duan Hong his junior brother? How did he become his master? Oomph. In order to save his life, he recognized his junior brother as his master? "You really look like a slave." Wait a minute. Sun Hao just called Mistress Mo Qing. Could it be that there's something going on between the two of them? Yun Jing listened to the incessant discussion of the crowd. This was the first time that she was called Su Yi's woman in front of her. Her face turned red, and it spread to her neck. Although Su Yi was now Duan Hong, Yun Jing still couldn't hide her happiness. She waved her white hand and said, "Get up, get up." Su Yi carefully looked at Sun Hao and Zhang Dan. Their faces were much more swollen than when Su Yi went in. He could not help but be very satisfied and said in a deep voice, "Well done. Did you bring everyone here according to my request?" "Yes, yes. Master, the four strongest people in the Ouyang region, Shun Mo, Lin Xiu, Qin Yu, and Lu Shuang are all here. In addition, they have teams under them. When they heard about the secret of the 100 herbs, they all came over." Sun Hao trembled as he spoke. His body was trembling like a sieve, and he was very respectful. Duan Hong was able to come out of the Li clan's ancestral hall. It was obvious that his strength was abnormally strong. Sun Hao did not dare to hide anything. "Very good." So he looked around and took out 2 elixirs from his bosom. A wave of spirit energy spread out. It was obviously a mid-tier yellow-grade elixir. He said, "Take these 2 elixirs and rest at the side. I will take care of the rest myself." "Yes, master." Sun Hao and Zhang Dan were pleasantly surprised when they saw that not only did Su Yi not blame them, but also gave them yellow-grade elixirs. After receiving the elixirs in fear and trepidation, they retreated to the side. Their eyes became arrogant when they looked at the crowd, as if their backer had come. "You, come here." Only Qin Yu was not injured. Su Yi pointed at Qin Yu and said. Qin Yu, who was called out, was frightened and uneasy. His eyebrows were filled with doubt. He slowly walked forward and did not dare to speak. "Have you found the soul measuring crystals?" "Yes." Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He did not know what Duan Hong was thinking and said softly, "Hand them over." Su Yi's aura spread out like a killing god as he said sternly, "And everyone else, I will give you 15 minutes to hand over all the soul-measuring crystals in your hands." Su Yi was calm and composed. He slowly looked at the thousands of people in the Li clan's ancestral hall as if he was talking to ants. "Duan Hong, don't go too far. Do you think you can cover the sky with one hand here?" When I get out, it will be easier for me to kill you than to kill an ant. Chinyu said fiercely. His long and narrow eyes revealed a sinister chill. Swish! Suddenly, Su Yi's palm shot out an overbearing aura. Before Chinyu could finish his words, he flew out and fainted. Is there anyone else? The fire attribute Yuan Qi under Su Yi's feet was vast and mighty. He was like a young god of war. Since he left the barbarian city, this was the first time that Su Yi faced so many disciples of the sacred mountain. He could settle the score. Chinyu is right. You can kill one Duan Hong, but can you kill 1,000? Let's attack together. No need to talk nonsense with him. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's see how many he can kill. Swish, swish. The figures flew, and the surrounding void instantly scattered like birds and beasts. Countless rays of vital qi light surged. Yun Jing's gaze gradually rippled. She could feel that Su Yi's vital qi was different now. Kid, with my devil Yuan Qi, these people will die. No one can escape. The soul-measuring beast said fiercely. The ancient demon hated the people of the sacred mountain to the extreme. Swish. No need. Su Yi immediately refused. The water attribute Yuan Qi in his hand suddenly rose. Like a flood erupting, a torrential river suddenly swept out in all directions. It was like a huge wave that could destroy everything. It was enough to destroy the vicissitudes of the world. Fogflower mirrors snow. Su Yi roared in his heart. The Origin Supreme technique was pushed to the extreme. Above the Li Clan square, a small ice-blue boundary rose and covered the entire sky. Some people's Yuan Qi was surging. Countless blue veins appeared on the back of their hands. It was very terrifying. Above the void, everyone's footsteps suddenly stagnated as if they had collided with the boundary. They fell heavily to the ground and groaned in pain. The ice-blue crystal was like a dagger. It shone with a cold light and was pressed against the throats of the disciples of the sacred mountain. If there was any resistance, the Yuan Qi would be activated and they would die immediately. Swish! After several exchanges, blood flowed like a river outside the Li clan's ancestral temple. Knowing that they could not resist, they gradually gave up and despair appeared on their faces. Huff! In the wide meridians in his body, Su Yi's great void Yuan Qi surged wildly like a boiling river. His aura was extremely fierce. Su Yi took a deep breath and shouted angrily. Let's see who can walk out today. Chapter 1548. Su Yi's figure gradually rose into the air and stood proudly like a god. He looked down at the holy mountain disciples who were groaning in pain. His body was covered in cold air, and sharp icicles pierced into their bodies. Sun Hao, Zhongdan, listen up. Disciple is here. The two looked at the scene in front of them and were dumbfounded. It turned out that Duan Hong didn't use his full strength at all before and was already being merciful to them. Su Yi was like a god descending to the mortal world. His disdainful eyes were filled with monstrous coldness as he said faintly, "The two of you are responsible for collecting the soul-measuring heavenly crystal and the space bags on everyone here. Those who don't agree, kill." Yes. Seeing Su Yi's godlike appearance, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan didn't dare to be negligent. As soon as they finished speaking, they went to collect the space bags on everyone and killed those who didn't agree. In less than a quarter of an hour, thousands of space bags piled up like a small mountain in the center of the square. Many cultivators who resisted stubbornly died on the spot. Similarly, their corpses piled up into a small mountain. Killing intent soared into the sky. Sun Hao, Zhang Dan, and the others were considerate. They specially picked out the soul-measuring heavenly crystal from the space bags and handed it to Su Yi with both hands. Master, all the soul-measuring heavenly crystals on them are basically here." Su Yi slightly circulated his essence qi and could feel that there were tens of millions of 3-star essence stones, countless magic tools, Dao tools, magic treasures, medicinal pills, materials, and so on. More importantly, there are also a large number of soul-measuring heavenly crystals. Yin Jing nodded and said, "Not bad. Those who can enter the Holy Mountain Academy have some foundation in their family. He was also very satisfied. He roughly counted that there were more than 500 soul-measuring heavenly crystals in the space bags. In this way, at least half of Ouyang Jinwei's area had not been developed. Immediately, Yi threw a bottle of medicinal pills to Sun Hao and Zhang Dan and 20 space bags to the two of them. A smile appeared on his lips as he said softly, "Feed all the cultivators who have subordinates. And those 4 over there, take the soul-gnawing, bone-corroding pill. Those who submit to me will enjoy endless benefits. Those who do not submit will have to admit that they are unlucky." Their arms trembled incessantly as they received the medicinal pills and spatial pouches in surprise and delight. They had consumed these medicinal pills, but they never thought that Yi would bring them along to make a fortune. After consuming them one by one, Shun Mo and the others' eyes were filled with hatred, and they said angrily, "Duan Hong, small favors. Don't expect us to work for you. When the observers come in, I'll tell Dean Xinyuan to execute you on the spot." Yi scratched the back of his head, and his lazy eyes revealed a chill as he said, "You might have been in the central region for a long time, so you don't know the effects of the soul-gnawing, bone-corroding pill. Let me introduce it to you. After consuming it, you must take the antidote once every 2 years. Otherwise, your body will rot, your bones and flesh will collapse, and your soul will be slowly devoured and disintegrated. You will have to endure endless pain and torture, so much so that you won't be able to commit suicide. You will only die after enjoying the extreme suffering of this world. If I die first, you will die with me." As soon as he finished speaking, the faces of the disciples who had consumed the medicinal pills turned red. Their hair stood on end, and their hearts trembled in fear. They looked at Yi with eyes full of anger. From today onwards, the name Duan Hong would spread throughout the 100 Herb Academy. Not only did he have a heaven-defying cultivation, but he also had thunderous methods, like an Azura. Do you still want to disobey? As long as you say a word, I can immediately fulfill your wishes. In this world, the easiest thing is death. Yi's gaze fell on the faces of Shun Mo, Lin Xiu, and the others. The coldness in his eyes was like the frost of the 12th lunar month. Shun Mo wanted nothing more than to grind his teeth to pieces as he breathed heavily. The entire square immediately became silent. Everyone looked at Yi's eyes that were filled with a cold light. They didn't dare to breathe loudly, and it was as if their breathing was about to stop. Leave behind 1,000 water elemental energy cultivators. The rest of you, lead your subordinates and search for the remaining soul-measuring heavenly crystals in this area. If you're done searching this area, go search in other areas. Who dares to hide? Kill without mercy. When Sun Hao and Zhang Dan were searching, they had already checked who had water elemental energy on them. They carefully checked the cultivators who left. Every one of them had an angry expression, but there was nothing they could do. A moment later, there were only 1,000 water elemental energy cultivators left outside the Li clan's ancestral hall. Yi also made these 1,000 cultivators slap themselves in front of the Li clan's ancestral hall, praying and repenting for the blood debt they had committed. On the other hand, he tidied up the items in his spatial bag and the soul-measuring heavenly crystals. After that, he walked to the side and spread out his palms, meditating on the ground. The cloud shadow, treading frost, just now, wasn't a real spatial martial technique. It was supported by Yi's boundless elemental energy and a boundary formation formed by the fog and snow. Now that everyone had left, Yi began to feel that his great void spirit, Si, was almost exhausted. It was the first time for Yi, who had cultivated the great void spirit Si, to use up so much elemental energy without using the Emperor Sparrow's technique to suppress it. Huff! Yun Jingyue, who was standing at the side, was heartbroken. She knew that the move just now had used up too much of Yi's elemental energy. At the same time, Yi was also using his blood to pay tribute to the Li clan's deceased soul. "Brat, do you despise my demonic energy so much?" The iron soulfish's face was filled with displeasure as he asked Yi, who was concentrating. I only want to use my own method to solve the problem. You said it yourself. The difference between a god and a demon is just a thought. Su Yi's body was shrouded in a divine aura. After he activated the Origin Supreme technique, an ancient aura surged out, and the sound of wind and thunder resounded incessantly. Good. When it's time to get the crimson heavenly crystal, I'll see how you deal with the old fogey of the sacred mountain with your own method. The iron soulfish snorted and continued to soak in the elemental energy in the entrance. After a while, Su Yi opened his eyes. His elemental energy had recovered rapidly, and there was no longer any trace of fatigue on his face. Old Tai, are you familiar with all the barbaric demonic beasts here? Su Yi's eyes were filled with determination as he looked faintly at the surrounding forest and asked, Of course, I have lived here for 5,000 years. I know every inch of this land like the back of my hand. Good. Su Yi's divine aura spread out as he said to Yunjing, Jinger, I'm going out for a while. Do you want to follow me? Aren't we going to open that now? Yunjing asked doubtfully. Su Yi looked at the sky and his eyes moved slightly. He said softly, There are still many debts to be settled in the sacred mountain. We can't just take the items and leave. Let's go. I'll leave this place to Sun Hao and Zhongdan. Swish, swish. Before he finished speaking, the elemental energy under Su Yi's feet rose as he used the Fuyao 100 transformation steps and flashed into the forest with Yunjing. Sun Hao and Zhongdan were in a daze as they looked at the two's back view. It was as if they were dreaming. What kind of deity was this? This year's 100 Herb Gathering should be much more magnificent than the previous ones. What are you looking at? Repent properly. Sun Hao perfectly assumed the role of supervisor and shouted at the 1,000 water elemental energy cultivators. He even kicked them from time to time. Chapter 1549. Slap slap. Outside the ancestral hall, everyone slapped their faces until blood splattered everywhere. From time to time, blood would flow out in the air. It was a ghastly sight. Say, do you think Master is from the Li family? Zhongdan looked at them blankly and said in a low voice, This? Sun Hao shook his head silently, indicating that he didn't know either. Logically speaking, such a talent wouldn't be buried in the academy. However, Duan Hong was unknown and valued the Li family's past so much. He couldn't understand what was going on. The moonlight shone, the Milky Way flowed in the sky, and flowers fell in the quiet wind. In the distant mountain forest, there were the low roars of the barbaric demon beasts. Under the sky, only the loud slaps of 1,000 people could be heard. It was very lively. The next day was peaceful. Until dusk, no one, not even the barbaric demon beasts, dared to approach. 1,000 cultivators with water attribute vitality stared at each other. Most of them had participated in the Li family's massacre. There was nothing they could do. Sun Hao and Zhongdan forced them to recite their sins for the whole day. Looking at these 1,000 people in such a miserable state, it was as if they were looking at themselves yesterday. Sun Hao and Zhongdan couldn't bear to look at them directly and kept an eye on them. For the whole day, Sun Hao and Zhongdan, who were bored to death, took pleasure in torturing these 1,000 cultivators with water attribute. Seeing that the sky was turning dark, Sun Hao and Zhongdan said excitedly at the same time when two beams of vitality light, one red and one green, came from the horizon. Master is back. Boom! As soon as Su Yi and Yunjing landed, they took out a space bag and threw it on the ground. The space bag seemed to be filled with many things and was extremely heavy. Su Yi raised his eyebrows slightly and said softly, you guys will have to work hard. Pick out all the soul measuring crystals in here. Sun Hao and Zhongdan checked with their vitality and turned pale with fright. It turned out that there were more space bags here than the 1,000 yesterday. Master, this is? Su Yi didn't answer. He looked very tired and walked straight to Yunjing. Yunjing glanced and said softly, Oh, these are the space bags of all the cultivators in the Ouyang district and some from other districts. There might be more later. Hurry up. If there's anything you like, you can pick two. Previously, Sun Hao and Zhongdan had called her mistress in front of everyone, making her very happy. Therefore, Yinjing also wanted to give them some benefits. "Thank you, mistress." Sun Hao and Zhang Dan were overjoyed when they heard this. The more they sorted it out, the more alarmed they became. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's sweat immediately flowed down. For an entire day, Duan Hong and Mo Qing had actually gone to plunder. Master is so powerful. Zhang Dan's eyes were burning with passion. At this time, he was already full of admiration for Su Yi. With so many things, they wouldn't be able to finish it even if they had a few lifetimes, but Su Yi had found them all in one day. "After you're done, stay at the door. It's quite lively outside. If you don't want to die, keep an eye on them." Su Yi, who was at the door, smiled slyly and entered the ancestral hall with Yunjing. Ouyang Jinwei's area, verdant mountain forest. "My dimensional bag, my soul measuring crystal. Save me." A person with a cultivation at the 7th level of the origin void stage was lying on the ground in ragged clothes as he ceaselessly spat out blood. His left leg had already become a pillar of blood, and his right leg even had an enormous bite mark from a barbaric demon beast. His eyes were staring blankly at the sky. Further in, within the dense forest of the mountain range, the smell of blood that suffused the heavens and the earth caused one's heart to tremble. The surroundings were filled with the figures of flying barbaric demon beasts with fierce auras as they flashed out. They hadn't even gone in when they could see a few tens of barbaric demon beasts that were the size of mountains rampaging through the forest. They were extremely terrifying as they violently and brutally slaughtered the holy mountain disciples. They were ruthless and bloody, brandishing their claws and whips, and many people were directly trampled into meat paste. The forest trembled as countless enormous rocks fell down like cannonballs. The holy mountain disciples that were unable to split themselves in two were directly crushed to death, and fresh blood flowed out. In an instant, the roars of beasts shook the sky and howled through the forest. The barbaric demon beasts that covered the heavens and the earth, from the demon void stage to the demon monarch stage, and even a few demon ancestor stage beasts that had lived in seclusion for many years had already turned out in full force. The dense group of barbaric demon beasts covered the heavens and the earth, and they formed an encirclement around the entire area of Ouyang Jinwei. The sounds of collisions and hisses that shot into the sky caused spatial ripples to surge out, and the blazing high temperature swiftly connected the entire area of Ouyang Jinwei into a wall of flames. The ceaselessly surging attribute energy and spatial aura caused the temperature of the dense forest on the mountain range to madly rise. Cries and shouts shook the heavens and the earth, and the sounds of fleeing resounded out in the wilderness. The fiery red mountain range had become the best burial ground for the holy mountain disciples. Owl! A muffled sound that was like thunder rumbled in the sky. Countless barbaric demon beasts flew through the sky and the earth, and they were directly defeated when they encountered the holy mountain disciples. They seized the spatial bags and soul-measuring crystals in their possession before handing them over to the demon monarch stage and demon ancestor stage experts by their side. Rumble! In a short period of a day, the entire area of Ouyang Jinwei's area of 20,000-plus holy mountain disciples had been annihilated. Blood flowed into rivers within the boundless forest, sand and rocks flew everywhere, and it was a complete mess. Screams and cries could be heard everywhere, and blood-red, murderous aura soared into the sky. Above the void, flying barbaric demon beasts flapped their wings and swept out of the dense forest in a frenzy, tossing the holy mountain disciples high into the air. The beasts' roars were shocking, and their howls were sharp. The holy mountain disciples' eyes were filled with despair as their heads were smashed and bleeding, where they were directly torn into pieces. On the ground, ferocious lizard barbaric demon beasts bared their cold teeth, and their eyes were filled with murderous intent. They rushed into the crowd and directly swallowed the holy mountain disciples alive. With a sweep of their huge beast tails, severed limbs, and scarlet blood painted the entire forest into a purgatory city. The demon monarch stage experts roared at the sky, and the blood was glistening. Kill! Kill all the holy mountain disciples. Take all the spatial bags and soul-measuring crystals. We can't leave them in the hands of any holy mountain dogs. Above the void, a powerful demon ancestor aura suddenly permeated the air, and the aura filled the air, covering the sky and the moon. Then, a burly man with a rough appearance and a ferocious look appeared on the hill. He held a small jade bottle in his hand, and the spiritual chi in the bottle seemed to have transcended the heavens and the earth, rushing straight to the top of his head. The burly man looked at the mountains in the other regions, and his eyes flickered. He said viciously, "Kill all these holy mountain dogs. The barbaric demon race. Protect the 100-herb sacred mountain. Kid, you've done me a favor. I'll kill all the holy mountain disciples for you." Roar! The beast's roar was like thunder, and dust flew everywhere. As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of barbaric demon beasts moved in full force. Their eyes were terrifying, and the sky was filled with blood-red light. Like a storm, they rushed to the area where the holy mountain disciples were more concentrated. In a short period of time, the barbaric demon beasts scattered around the 100-herb sacred mountain had formed a large army, and they gathered together in a mighty manner. Bang! In the void, the spiritual chi light collided with the figures of the barbaric demon beasts, and a loud roar was heard. The aura was domineering, and it caused strong winds to sweep across the entire area like a storm. Chapter 1550. The barbarian beast attacks had reached the most intense moment. A few demon ancestor stage barbarian beasts had already transformed into their true forms and participated in the massacre. A ferocious bird that was shining with golden light and a fierce thunder fire lion appeared in the sky. Their huge figures continued to rise into the sky. Their 4 eyes shone brightly, and their fierce auras swept through the entire mountain forest. The holy mountain disciples looked at the enormous barbarian beast silhouettes in the sky with fear in their eyes. After their origin chi was locked onto, they could only watch as their bodies were smashed by the barbarian beasts. Their lower limbs were pierced, and there wasn't even a drop of blood on their faces. The Jinwei mountain forest was filled with the smell of blood and was filled with the aura of destruction. The holy mountain disciples were constantly being torn apart and slaughtered in the mountain forest. Wails of agony were incessantly heard. The ground was covered in meat paste, and the sky was filled with bloody mist. It caused the sky to change color and the wind and clouds to surge. That's a demon ancestor stage powerhouse. Oh my God. My face. My feet. Such a scene, coupled with the barbarian beasts that were everywhere in the sky, caused all the holy mountain disciples in Ouyang Jinwei's area to lay down their arms and surrender. Their legs went weak as they watched the end of the world approach. Even until their deaths, they still wouldn't know why so many barbarian beasts suddenly appeared here. The enormous attack quickly spread to other areas. At this moment, the purgatory arrived, and the 100-herb mountain welcomed their doomsday. This was the revenge of the entire 100-herb mountain. It was the punishment of the heavens. All holy mountain disciples who can escape quickly report to Dean Xianyuan and the holy mountain elders. Request for backup. One of the holy mountain disciples was at the 9th level of the origin void stage. He was covered in blood as he fought with all his might and constantly shouted at the fleeing holy mountain disciples. Not long after, his figure was once again drowned by the barbarian beast's brutal figures. Countless holy mountain disciples fled in fear. The entire mountain forest was in a mess, and no one had the time to report. Outside the Li clan's ancestral hall, the night was slightly chilly and sparse shadows danced in the wind. The silent mountain valley seemed to be filled with the sound of fleeing screams. The blazing flames in the distance already told everyone outside the Li clan's ancestral hall what was happening outside. 1,000 water origin chi cultivators huddled together and trembled. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's expressions were extremely nervous as they whispered, "It's not good. All the barbarian beasts in the 100-herb mountain have moved out." Zhang Dan clenched his fists and his face paled as he said to Sun Hao, We might have brought in a god of slaughter. It's likely to kill them all. Within the Li clan's ancestral shrine, Su-Yi was sitting cross-legged while strange talisman markings surged out from his body, and his aura was strong like the wind that caused peerless waves to arise in space. Chi. Su-Yi condensed his hand seals, and the Origin Supreme technique wildly surged within his body. His entire being was like an old monk in a meditative state. Divine light enveloped his body, and a powerful aura erupted from his body, causing the entire ancestral temple to tremble. Su-Yi, how many more secrets do you have? The bottle you gave the extreme thunder demonic lion and flaming feather demonic condor contains something extraordinary. To be able to gather all the barbarian beasts in a single day and subdue a demon ancestor expert. Even the Yun family would find it hard to produce someone with such courage and ability. Yun Jing looked at Su-Yi, who was sitting cross-legged and adjusting his breathing. Yun Jing's attention was attracted by the constant movements and changes around him. Yun Jing's eyes were burning and filled with desire. Maturity and methods that don't match his age, rare martial techniques and saint artifacts, and that unbelievably domineering aura. Su-Yi, I'll bet on you in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. As the scarlet and white light around Su-Yi's body continued to condense into a divine ring, the aura around his body became even more condensed. The domineering aura of destruction in the air became denser and denser as it spread out in all directions. There's the aura of my barbarian demon clan and the divine profound spiritual veins mixed with a divine demon. Brat, interesting. Within the entrance, there was also a trace of amazement in his eyes as he looked at Su-Yi. The Iron Soulfish was incomparably happy. 100 Herb Academy, Stage of Sacred Light. After nearly 2 days, the usually cold and aloof Ouyang Jinwei finally couldn't sit still any longer as she stared at the screen of light on the stage of Sacred Light. Up until now, there had been many results from the talent tests in all 6 districts. As for her district, other than the results from the previous morning, there was no other news. Ouyang Jinwei's face was ashen and cold. Li Ling slowly walked over and gently pulled on the corner of Ouyang Jinwei's clothes. We'll be able to enter tomorrow morning. Maybe the competition in your district is more intense, or maybe there are fewer crystals. Li Ling comforted Ouyang Jinwei with a dignified expression. Ouyang Jinwei pretended to shout, but glanced at the 5th Holy Sun and pulled Li Ling to the side. Senior sister, this time the 5th Holy Sun came to the city. The barrier was personally set up by Elder Su and Elder Lu. As a sign of respect, the Academy withdrew all the guards from the 100 Herb Mountain. Now that there are no results and no one is reporting the situation, my heart is in turmoil. Are you worried that that person will cause trouble? Li Ling knew that she couldn't hide it anymore. This kind of situation was indeed strange. Ouyang Jinwei nodded heavily. She clenched her teeth and turned to Headmaster Xian Yuan. Headmaster Xian Yuan, please open the barrier. I want to go in early. Headmaster Xian Yuan frowned. His hair and beard fluttered in the wind. He awkwardly looked at Elder Su and Elder Lu beside him. Miss Jinwei, I know you care about the results of your district, but the rules have been set before the competition. If you go in early, it will be unfair to the students of the other districts. Elder Su's face sank. He stroked his silver beard and said in a deep voice, Could it be that you think there's a problem with this old man's barrier? Ouyang Jinwei's expression changed slightly. She turned to the 2 elders and bowed deeply. She respectfully said, Jinwei didn't mean that. It's just that there hasn't been any battle in Disciples' district. I feel that something is strange. Disciples' cultivation is low. If I go in early, it shouldn't affect the direct disciple ceremony. Ouyang Jinwei wouldn't tell the Holy Sun and the elders that Su-Yi might be in there for the time being. Firstly, it would implicate Central State City. Secondly, it would also implicate herself. She would be criticized for not reporting it. Since that's the case, there's no need to be anxious. Anyway, it's only one night. Withdraw. Elder Lu snorted softly at the side. This. Ouyang Jinwei's heart was burning with anxiety. She glanced at Li Ling. Li Ling's brows were also heavy. Zhang. Xiahong Lu's eyes were deep. There was a strange fluctuation in his bright eyes. He immediately stood up and said softly, "The 100 Herb Academy has a deep foundation. Every student is talented. Why is it that only junior sister Jinwei's district has no results? The 100 Herb Academy hasn't appeared yet. Headmaster Xian Yuan, can you give this holy son an answer?" Xiahong Lu said while looking at Elder Su and Elder Lu. Chapter 1551. Elder Su Lu remained silent. Wang Chuanda, who was standing behind him, had a gloomy look in his eyes. He kept tapping his chin as if he had thought of something. "Since you can't give an answer, let junior sister Ouyang in. Junior sister Li Ling will accompany her. If anyone wants to blame her, come to Xiahong House." Xiahong House's elegant and handsome face showed an unprecedented determination. Oomph. Elder Su heard this. Since the saint had spoken, he did not insist. He glared at Ouyang Jinwei and Xiahong House, then left. Immediately, the barrier opened. Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling looked at Xiahong House in confusion, then jumped into the 100 Herb barrier. No one noticed that after the two of them entered, Xiahong House's eyes flickered slightly. After entering the barrier, the deeper they went, the more shocked they were. From the Five Saints area to Ouyang Jinwei's area. Ouyang Jinwei saw a different number of savage beasts along the way. When she reached her area, the demon Grandmaster experts had already disappeared. Only savage beasts were still gnawing on the bodies of the Saint Mountain disciples. The entire forest was covered in blood. Bones and flesh were separated and scattered everywhere. The night wind blew with the pungent smell of blood. Crack! At this moment, there were no more howls or screams in the forest. There were only savage beasts running up and down and chewing on the bodies. The mountain was filled with shocking signs of fighting. Two figures were in the air. One was cold and arrogant, while the other was passionate. They were Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling. What's going on? Ouyang Jinwei looked at the tragic scene in front of her and gasped. Her legs went weak. Corpses were piled up everywhere. The blood from thousands of corpses formed a river. She looked up and saw the corpses of the Saint Mountain disciples hanging in the forest. Ouyang Jinwei clenched her fists so tightly that they turned white. She was so angry that her face turned pale. When she landed on the ground, her eyes were filled with stars. Li Ling supported her. "Senior sister, what's going on? What's going on?" At this moment, tears welled up in Ouyang Jinwei's eyes. Ouyang Jinwei couldn't stop sobbing. Li Ling's eyes were also red with tears. She couldn't believe it. This hellish scene of blood caused the minds of the two personal disciples with profound cultivations to instantly collapse. What kind of hatred could create such a shocking sea of blood? Roar! Beside him, a few more blood-winged wind wolves charged out from the dense forest, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, revealing their cold fangs. Golden lightning, soul-suppressing finger. In the blink of an eye, all of her anger surged to Ouyang Jinwei's index finger along with her primordial chi. The tip of her finger floated in the air, dazzling with golden light. Immediately, a streak of golden lightning flashed, accompanied by the faint sound of deafening thunder. Rumble! Above the void, a golden light instantly arrived. The golden fingerprints were like golden lightning, piercing through the bodies of the blood-winged wind wolves. Accompanied by the clanging of wind and thunder, it resounded throughout the entire mountain forest. Bang! The wind wolves fell heavily from the sky. The ground around them directly exploded and cracked. Between the flying sand and rocks, the scene was incomparably horrifying. Ouyang Jinwei's eyes were filled with anger like a ferocious beast, rapidly shuttling between the bodies of the wind wolves. In the blink of an eye, all of the wind wolves were torn apart, blood spraying everywhere. A dazzling killing intent soared into the sky, the dazzling golden light dazzling in the blood-red sky. It's the golden lightning, soul-suppressing finger. It's someone from the sacred mountain. Within the dense forest, a few figures crawled out, covered in dirty snow. It was Shun Mo, Lin Xiao, and the others who had escaped. Shen Mo's left hand was empty, with traces of being gnawed by the savage demon beasts. Lin Xiao's originally thick wrist was also missing 3 fingers. Among them, only Lu Shuang was in relatively good condition, only leaving a bloody hole on her shoulder. Its senior sister Jean Wei. Lu Shuang was pleasantly surprised. The 3 of them quickly rolled to Ouyang Jinwei's side. Seeing the Holy Mountain's experts, the 3 of them acted as if they had seen their savior, crying their hearts, livers, spleens, lungs, and kidneys. Ouyang Jinwei, whose eyes were bloodshot, became even more irritated, shouting angrily, "Shut up! Speak! What exactly happened?" "Senior sister, we all fell for Duan Hong's trick. Duan Hong forced us to eat the soul-devouring, bone-corroding pill, and even asked us to help him find the soul-measuring crystal." Lu Shuang's tears and mucus flowed down. The wound on her face that was heavily injured by Yun Jing was still bleeding. "Wait, who is Duan Hong?" Ouyang Jinwei's brows emitted cold electricity as she asked with a cold expression. A trace of coldness and fear appeared on Lu Shuang's pale face as she trembled and said, "He's a disciple of the 9 Mansions. I've never heard of him before." "That's right. After we returned to the dense forest, we don't know where he found so many savage demon beasts." The senior brothers who participated in the successor ceremony were all bitten to death. Lin Qiu continued. Ouyang Jinwei's blood boiled. Her joints cracked from the pressure. Li Ling angrily said, "Why didn't you report this to the outside?" "Senior sister, you don't know. All the savage demon beasts in the Hunderher Mountain were mobilized. Even the demon ancestor experts came out to help Duan Hong find the soul-measuring crystal. They killed the disciples of the Holy Mountain when they saw them. It's too scary." After saying that, Lin Xiu still couldn't stop trembling. His fat body swayed in front of Ouyang Jinwei like a small mountain. Hearing this, Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling immediately gasped. Their almond-shaped eyes widened. Ouyang Jinwei suspiciously said, "There's indeed something fishy. He actually dared to mess with the Holy Mountain. I'll let him die without a burial place. Don't even think about leaving this place alive." "Where's that Duan Hong now?" Li Ling coldly said to the 3 who were in a sorry state. The 3 of them looked at each other. Duan Hong came and went without a trace. How would they know where he went? Suddenly, Lu Shuang's heart flashed and said, "I remember now. He even captured 1,000 water elemental chi cultivators in the Li clan's ancestral hall." 1,000? Ouyang Jinwei's eyes were even more confused. She didn't know what he was planning. "Junior sister, let's go. Let's go take a look. The 3 of you quickly go and inform the people in the other areas and Principal Xin Yuan." As soon as she finished speaking, Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling frantically circulated their golden elemental chi, turning into a stream of light in the air, and flew straight to the Li clan's ancestral hall. Not long after the 2 of them left, they heard the sounds of barbaric beasts rushing and killing in the other areas in the distance, one after another. Presumably, another purgatory was about to open. Instantly, their hair stood on end, and the 3 of them scrambled to escape toward the barrier entrance. With the sound of wind breaking, Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling remained silent along the way, pushing their speed to the maximum, like a meteor across the sky. "Duan Hong, you killed so many disciples of the Holy Mountain. I want you to pay with your blood." Li Ling, who had always been gentle, was already enraged by this massacre. Like a volcanic eruption, she was about to erupt at any moment. "Bastard, I'll definitely grind your bones to dust." Ouyang Jinwei clenched her silver teeth, and in an instant, she once again turned into a flash of lightning and rushed toward the ancestral hall. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful book mobile version website, .com. Chapter 1552. Outside the Li clan's ancestral hall. Phew. Su Yi recovered from his deep breathing. After exhaling a long breath of turbid air, he slowly opened his eyes. His starry eyes once again overflowed with radiance. The sound of wind and thunder instantly disappeared as a monstrous wave of energy spread out into the distance like a light wave. Woo, you're awake. I haven't even fallen asleep, and you've already recovered. This freak really has a freak speed. Yin Jing covered her mouth and chuckled. How am I a freak? Su Yi asked, puzzled. Go out and take a look later. Thanks to you, the outside might have already become a terrifying hell. Yin Jing looked at Su Yi with eyes full of starry light. You only have yourself to blame. The one who slaughters the clan will slaughter himself. Su Yi's expression suddenly sank. His robe fluttered slightly as his aura faintly fluctuated. His bewitching yet not evil face was covered in frost. Su Yi only had endless anger and hatred towards the sacred mountain. You can't escape from the sins you bring upon yourself. I'm afraid that when those old men come in tomorrow, it will be difficult for you to deal with them. Yin Jing said with some worry. It's fine. When I rescued the extreme thunder demonic lion and the flaming winged demonic condor, they promised me that they would block Su and Lu. I will personally deal with Wang Chuanda and the Xiahong house. Su Yi softly snorted as his battle intent gradually surged in his blood. Then how do we get out? Yin Jing's gaze moved slightly. She was still a little worried. If a fight really broke out, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't make a mistake. Su Yi pondered for a moment and took out a space bag from his bosom and gave it to Yin Jing. He solemnly said, I used this thing 10 days ago. It should have recovered its function by now. Then Su Yi continued, Jing, I know your strength very well. Just in case, if there really is a powerhouse, you can use this to leave and bring everything to the Shunjian gate to wait for me. I don't want it. If we're leaving, we'll leave together. Yin Jing returned the item to Su Yi and reprimanded him. Can you guarantee that you won't faint again? Su Yi asked back. Don't worry, I still have the power of the Iron Soulfish. Let's get out of here. It's time to activate the Heaven Crystal Array. Su Yi said softly. As soon as they left the Ancestral Hall, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan immediately came up to Yin Jing and handed 2 heavy space bags to her, saying softly, Mistress, these are the distributed soul testing origin crystals, a total of 1,271 pieces, as well as the space bags of all the Holy Mountain disciples. They were all here. Zhang Dan then took out another space bag and said respectfully to Su, Mas, Master, this was brought over by a barbaric beast just now. There are still over 1,000 soul testing crystals inside. Su Yi nodded his head lightly. Indeed, barbarian demonic beasts were more reliable than human hearts. He waved his hand and said, Give these to Junior Sister Maching. This is the antidote. You can scram now. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan looked at each other in disbelief and said, Master, the 2 of us know that you're not Duan Hong and are definitely a hero. Although your methods have been ruthless these past few days, compared to those people from the Holy Mountain Academy, you have treated us very well. Therefore, we do not wish to leave. We wish to rely on you. Yin Jing immediately looked to the side and looked at the 2 of them in surprise. She didn't expect that when things came to a head, these 2 ant-like characters were still reliable. Although their cultivation was low, their brains were still relatively sharp. Take the antidote. We will talk about relying on me later. If you really have the heart, I will arrange for you to join my sect after this. The 2 of them were immediately stunned. Indeed, Duan Hong was no small matter. He was actually the master of his sect. After hurriedly thanking him, the 2 of them fled as fast as they could. Are they really reliable? Yin Jing asked doubtfully. These 2 people have helped me a lot. These days, it can be considered as repaying their debts. With low cultivation, they can't cause any storms. As long as they don't continue to commit crimes, it's fine to spare their lives. Su Yi's expression gradually turned gloomy as he turned to the 1,000-water elemental qi cultivators. But these people, as well as all the people who participated in the Li Clan's massacre, must all pay with their lives. After saying this, Su Yi raised his blade and swung it down. The anger in his heart, accompanied by boundless origin qi, surged up. Everyone's origin chi was like a whale dragon sucking in water as it surged towards the celestial crystal fragment in Su Yi's hand. Whoosh! Su Yi followed the method taught by the iron soulfish. Monstrous origin chi suddenly swept through the sky and instantly turned the entire sky into an icy blue color. The dazzling water elemental chi was like a giant bubble that wrapped around the Li clan's ancestral hall. It was dazzling like a crystal blue pearl under the starry sky. The aura rumbled, and all the water elemental chi cultivators immediately felt their origin chi being sucked away. The vortex in their Dantian Sea of Chi was like an air pump that constantly sucked away everything. Along with the essence Chi in their bloodline, it was also sucked away. Help! Help! Junior brother Duan Hong, I was wrong. I shouldn't have snatched the Li clan's magic tool. I was wrong. I shouldn't have snatched the Li clan's pill scriptures. I shouldn't have killed the Li clan's elder and taken his granddaughter. In an instant, all of the water elemental energy cultivators spilled out all of their sins, hoping that Su Yi would let them off. The more they spoke, the harsher it became. In the end, Yun Jing had to cover her ears with a look of disdain. It's you. You bastard trash who deserve to live at the bottom. Apologize to the Li clan in hell. With every sentence of repentance, Su Yi's monstrous anger skyrocketed. In the end, the soaring killing intent swept through the entire Li clan's ancestral hall like a storm. The void was chaotic, and the energy of heaven and earth was also chaotic. The incomparably huge, icy blue origin chi water ball gradually turned into a dark blue water dragon. It was resplendent like a living creature. It swallowed up the 1,000 water elemental chi cultivators and finally turned into a stream of light that rushed towards Su Yi's celestial crystal. Boom! 1,000 water elemental chi cultivators fell to the ground one after another. Their bodies were withered. Their eyes were deep and dark like caves. Their mummified skin glowed in the dark night, and not a trace of blood flowed out. After losing their chi essence, the corpses were like pieces of paper that were blown away by the wind. Dust should be gone like dust. Why leave sorrow in the world? Yun Jing sighed softly. This group of ant-like people, in the end, was just a pipe dream. At this moment, Su Yi made this bloody dream completely wake up. From today onwards, the sacred mountain was no longer a lofty existence. It was just a hypocritical sect covered with a fig leaf. Sacred mountain, I will settle all the accounts with you clearly on the sacred mountain. Stop. Su Yi slightly narrowed his eyes. Two dazzling golden lights rushed over from the distance. Two auras soared into the sky. It was as if a terrifying origin chi energy was collapsing. Strong winds and ripples covered the sky and earth. They came so fast. Such rapid speed was beyond Su Yi's expectations. When the two people came to a stop, the two extremely seductive figures immediately made Su Yi frown coldly. The corners of his mouth pulled into a sneer. I was wondering who it was. So, it's an old acquaintance. Yun Jing's expression also gradually froze. Her face gradually became gloomy and cold. So it's your wife. Chapter 1553. Su Yi frowned when he heard that. Looking at the two charming ladies, he didn't try to hide his voice and said coldly, "We meet again, fairies." Fairy's beauty is so fast. Ouyang Jinwei's eyes widened in anger. A bright light burst out from her eyes, and a golden pattern appeared on her fingertip. The surrounding air froze as she said coldly, "It's really you, the bastard from the Black Fog Conference. You killed so many of my Zhongzhou guards and killed so many people in my district? So what if I did?" Su Yi's eyes were sharp as killing intent rose in his eyes. "Very well. You got some guts. You could die now." Ouyang Jinwei's pretty face was cold, and her expression was cold. Her body exuded a majestic aura, and a protective golden light wrapped around her like a shield. Su Yi's eyes were like torches, and the corner of his mouth was slightly curled. He pointed at the ruins of the Li clan's ancestral temple behind him. Did you kill these people? A bone-chilling cold current filled the sky and flowed toward Ouyang Jinwei with the night wind. Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling looked at Su Yi, and their eyes froze at the same time. The entire sacred mountain knew about the massacre of the Li clan. This time, Wang Chuanda and the others came again for the Li clan secret. So you're a surviving member of the Li clan. The Li clan's secret treasures are unforgivable. Ouyang Jinwei's cold eyes widened as she spoke in a ferocious voice. The aura in her body surged, and a mighty aura burst out. Li Ling, on the other hand, frowned. She had heard about the massacre of the Li clan because she lived deep in the sacred mountain and lived with Lu Ruoshi day and night. She knew the truth very well. Li Ling, who had climbed step by step from the bottom to where she was today, had an unnatural expression after hearing Ouyang Jinwei's words. Yun Qing, who was standing gracefully, was displeased. She raised her head and said, "She called you a surviving member. She's really good at being a daughter-in-law." Yun Qing had hated Ouyang Jinwei's cold and arrogant temperament since the Black Fog Conference. "It's you. You're Sui." Yun Jing's voice was like a hammer striking down, confirming Ouyang Jinwei's thoughts. Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling both retreated rapidly, their eyes shining brightly. The golden light protecting their bodies swept out in all directions, and a tyrannical wave of qi accompanied by an overwhelming killing intent. Duan Hong, Black Fog Conference. It really is you. Very good. You still have the guts to come back. I'll settle all accounts with you. You bullied me, Ouyang, and slaughtered my Sacred Mountain's disciples. And you. Ouyang Jinwei's eyes were filled with killing intent. Yun Qing's words were like a raging fire burning in her chest. Ouyang Jinwei glared at Yun Qing. Her robe fluttered in the golden light, and a chill shot out. Then, a soul-trembling pressure spread out like a storm. Indifferently, Ouyang Jinwei took a step back. Light lingered around her body, and a shocking golden bolt of lightning flashed from her fingertip. It tore through the sky like a golden swan, shooting out explosively. In the next moment, Ouyang Jinwei had already rushed to Su Yi like an arrow. "Great! Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Yun Qing didn't show any weakness. She raised her eyebrows, and the wood attribute energy around her suddenly rose. Suddenly, a divine light surged and pulled Su Yi behind her. Roar! His palms changed continuously, and a huge shadow of a wood spirit appeared behind him. The wood spirit's body was incomparably huge. Its body exuded a faint green light, and its two eyes shone with a bright green light. Its strong palms were as tall as small hills, and its body was covered in flowing light, carrying a firm dark green hue. It seemed to attract the absolute power of heaven and earth. The moment the wood spirit appeared, killing intent shot out from Yun Qing's eyes. Above the void, a cold, murderous aura surged, and heaven and earth energy fluctuated violently. What a powerful remnant soul! Su Yi, who was pushed to the back, blurted out. Yun Qing could actually attract an ancient remnant soul. This kind of talent and ability to capture remnant souls was not something an ordinary sect could cultivate. Compared to her, he didn't know who was better. Su Yi, Ouyang Jinwei, Li Ling, and the others' faces changed. They had never seen such a powerful soul attack in their lives. "You said you don't hit women, so I'll do it for you. Since the engagement has been annulled, there's no need for you to stay in this world." Yun Qing sneered, as if she was looking at a blade of grass. The wood spirit waved its giant palm, and the entire space rippled. A terrifying heaven and earth energy spread out, and the golden finger was instantly submerged in a torrential tide of green light. Ouyang Jinwei, who was flying in the sky, attacked fiercely. Her soul was shaken, and she couldn't withdraw her attack in time. Her face was filled with fear. In the blink of an eye, the golden finger disappeared, and it was tightly wrapped by the torrential green energy. Her petite body was completely covered by it. The pressure was overwhelming, and the momentum was earth-shattering. Ouyang Jinwei was like duckweed in the middle of the waves. The aura and wind around her body were destroyed by the terrifying momentum in the air, and her mind was shaken. This was a fight on a completely different level. The crushing battle had stopped the moment Yun Qing attacked. Ouyang Jinwei's face twitched. Her weak body was grabbed by the wood spirit's giant palm, and she couldn't escape at all. Her face was pale, and Li Ling's eyes were filled with fear. The wood spirit's remnant soul slammed its giant palm, and the heaven and earth trembled. The entire Li family's ancestral hall rumbled, and a dense killing intent filled the air. Sui was secretly shocked. It seemed that Yun Qing was really angry this time. From the beginning to the end, Yun Qing hadn't shown her true strength. Now, it seemed that Yun Qing's strength was at least at the origin ancestor realm, based on her disdainful attitude toward Elder Su and Elder Lu, and the fact that she could attract such a powerful ancient remnant soul. Yun Qing's strength should be restricted. Sui could sense from the Origin Supreme technique that Yun Qing's strength had been restrained since they met. Yun Qing should be even stronger before she fell into a coma. Yun Qing glanced at Sui indifferently. Her wood attribute energy once again turned into a claw, and the terrifying energy crashed into Ouyang Jinwei's chest again. She was toying with Ouyang Jinwei in the palm of her hand, and she wasn't in a hurry to shatter her. Sui's eyes changed slightly. A woman's battle was too terrifying, and Yun Qing was even more terrifying when she was angry. Pooh! With a slap, powerful energy ripples immediately swept out, and a muffled sound came from the void. Ouyang Jinwei, who was being suppressed, was like a fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. A bloody mist seeped out from the shattered protective energy, covering Ouyang Jinwei's graceful body with a layer of blood-red gauze. Chapter 1554. It could be felt that Ouyang Jinwei's heart and soul had completely collapsed. Yun Qing's vast and imposing pressure was like an ancient mountain crushing down, directly crushing her soul into dust. Blood dripped from her graceful and sparkling body, like a snow plum blossom, incomparably miserable. What fairy of the sacred mountain, what young miss of the city lord, without absolute strength, you are even worse than those ants. Yun Qing's face curved into a cold arc. Yun Qing had long had enough of this domineering, arrogant, and unbridled young miss. In front of her, everything was nothing. Sui, bitch, you and I are irreconcilable. I won't let you go even if I die. Ouyang Jinwei squeezed out a few weak words from her throat. Ouyang Jinwei, who was about to explode, had an ashen face, blue veins bulging on her beautiful face, sinister and gloomy, without the slightest intention of compromising. On the side, Sui frowned slightly, his deep eyes filled with boundless darkness. Ouyang Jinwei, when you were arrogant and domineering, did you ever think about how much innocent blood flowed under your feet? In the whole world, only the people of the Ouyang family are human. Are the people of the sacred mountain human? Sui sneered. Bang! As her gaze trembled, Li Ling looked at the bloody, murderous aura that filled the mountains. Ouyang Jinwei had been brutally abused. She felt that not only was she being humiliated, but all the powerhouses of the sacred mountain were being ruthlessly trampled under their feet. This spontaneously arising pride of the sacred mountain disciples was now suffering a blood-soaked grief. Sui and this mysterious woman were too strong. They were not people she could match at all. Now that she had no helpers by her side, for the sake of her sect and honor, she had to fight recklessly. Sui, don't go too far. The disciples of the sacred mountain will never compromise. Even if they don't obey, they won't surrender. Li Ling shouted, her figure suddenly moving forward, her palms crisscrossing, and an illusory golden attack whistled towards Yun Qing and Sui. She has some courage. Sui raised his eyebrows. 100 Herb Academy. After Ouyang Jinwei entered the barrier in a spacious courtyard. It was a man in his 50s with some white hair on his temples. He was thin and slightly stooped. He was none other than Elder Wang Chuanda of the Sacred Mountain. Under the moonlight, his face was cold and silent. He kept stroking his beard, thinking about what had happened during the day. Could it really be such a coincidence? Elder Wang also thinks that there's a problem with this matter. In the darkness, a middle-aged man in a brocade robe appeared behind Wang Chuanda like a phantom. His aura was majestic, and a trace of worry appeared on his face as he continued to speak. My daughter has already entered the barrier. Elder Wang has always had a close relationship with my central continent city, so I wish to share something with your respected self. What's the matter? Wang Chuanda turned around, his cold eyes filled with killing intent. If we get the Crimson Water Heavenly Crystal on the Book of Merit, Central Continent City, well, Ouyang Yuanfeng knew the purpose of Wang Chuanda's return to the 100 Mountain. In the Sacred Mountain, Wang Chuanda was known for his mediocre talent. In just a few years, he had relied on his scheming methods to advance from a guardian to an elder of the Sacred Mountain. Even though he had no authority and his cultivation was only at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm, he knew too many dirty things in the Sacred Mountain. Therefore, the Sacred Master had always put him in an important position. Ouyang Yuanfeng knew that there might be something more useful to him than Elder Su and Elder Lu. After getting Wang Chuanda's approval, Ouyang Yuanfeng continued speaking. Previously, there were many murders in Central Continent City. The Black Fog Conference was also destroyed. After investigation, every incident seemed to be directed at our Ouyang clan. There's actually such a thing. Wang Chuanda fell into deep thought. There was a sense of impending danger in his heart. Ouyang Yuanfeng's gaze was so deep that it made one's heart palpitate. He said coldly, "Perhaps that person has already returned." A name flashed across Wang Chuanda's mind like lightning. A powerful pressure immediately surged out from Wang Chuanda's body. His eyes were filled with killing intent. It's all this old man's fault for not doing a clean job back then. Today, this old man is suffering because of Su Yi. This old man will definitely grind his bones and scatter his ashes. The energy surrounding Wang Chuanda's body crackled like a sonic boom. Ouyang Yuanfeng's gaze slightly fluctuated. He took the opportunity to step forward and whispered, "Furthermore, after investigation, he once rescued a survivor of the Li clan in Central Continent City. If the Li clan's secret falls into Su Yi's hands..." Ouyang Yuanfeng didn't continue speaking. Wang Chuanda's eyes flashed. Without any hesitation, he formed a seal with his hand. A stream of light suddenly flowed out from his hand. Suddenly, a majestic aura scattered all over the sky like a torrential flood. "Let's go," Wang Chuanda bellowed. Whoosh! In the courtyard, it was so quiet. His figure disappeared like an illusion, leaving only the swaying shadows of the trees and the mottled ground. Outside the Li clan's ancestral hall, a strong wind blew. The incomparably huge wood spiritual god was like the wind in clouds. Every movement of his could draw the majestic energy of heaven and earth. His aura was like an ancient mountain, changing the wind and clouds. PFFF. Ouyang Jinwei was still in the wooden palm, but she was no longer struggling. Her eyes were slightly bulging. Her snow-white skin had gradually turned into a purplish-red color, just like a dried corpse. On the other side, Li Ling was paralyzed on the ground. In front of Yunqing and Su Yi, Li Ling didn't have the slightest strength to fight back. Her eyes were filled with despair. Suddenly, a monstrous golden light surged in the distant horizon. It was as if the heaven and earth were going to tremble and shatter. A huge ray of light was incomparably pure and holy. It carried the power to destroy all living things as it swept over. "Su Yi, you bastard! Put down my daughter!" Ouyang Yuanfeng, 9th level Origin Sovereign. Su Yi recognized the person who came. He raised his eyebrows slightly and sneered. "Humph. As expected, you can't hold back anymore. Let's kill them all." Boom! Ouyang Yuanfeng swept over with a ferocious attack that covered the sky like a ferocious beast. Above the void, he ruthlessly clashed with the wood spiritual god's huge attack. Suddenly, the vault of heaven trembled violently under the terrifying collision. At the place where the power clashed, tiny spatial cracks appeared. It was as if a heavy stone was thrown into a lake, causing huge ripples. Ouyang Yuanfeng's attack that carried some saint ruler chi caused the wood's spiritual god's attack to stagnate slightly. The wood's spiritual god's incomparably huge body retreated 20 feet. In the sky, Ouyang Yuanfeng's footsteps were like he was gliding as he retreated a few dozen feet. What a powerful attack! Ouyang Yuanfeng's eyes sank. He couldn't conceal the boundless shock in his heart. Another one has come to die. Yun Jing's palm flew out. The wood spiritual god stood up again and held Yun Jing in its hand. At this moment, Yun Jing's face was slightly pale. Boom! Ouyang Jinwei, who was held tightly by the wood spiritual god, was as pale as a sheet of paper. Her snow-white skin had turned into a scale-like skin. Countless tiny cracks appeared all over her body. Chapter 1555. Junior sister, junior sister. Li Ling shouted loudly as she flew to Ouyang Jinwei's side like a flash of lightning. Li Ling panicked. Her eyes were filled with light as two streams of blood flowed down her cheeks. She took out a bottle of celestial-grade elixir and fed it to Ouyang Jinwei. In the distance, Ouyang Yuanfeng staggered and landed beside Ouyang Jinwei. His eyes were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. His hands trembled as he caressed the face of the unconscious Ouyang Jinwei. He suddenly realized that Ouyang Jinwei's mind had collapsed, and her meridians were severely damaged. It might not be enough for her to cultivate again in this lifetime. Wei-er, Wei-er! Ouyang Yuanfeng shouted sorrowfully. Li Ling knelt at the side and cried. She knew that compared to her disappointing son, the governor of Zhongzhou City cared about Ouyang Jinwei more. Ouyang Jinwei, who had inherited his legacy, was the greatest pride of the governor of Zhongzhou City. Ouyang Yuanfeng's grief was imaginable. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Su Yi's eyes were cold. Whoosh! Su Yi activated the Fuyao 100 transformation steps and stood in front of the wood spiritual god. He looked at Yun Jing with concern. Are you okay? When you woke up, I felt that your cultivation was much weaker. Don't force yourself. Looking at Su Yi's hesitation, Yun Jing's eyes lit up. She smiled and said softly, It's okay. I'll do whatever you don't want to do in the future. I'll go with you when you conquer the world. I'll go with you when you destroy the sacred mountain. Jing, sigh. Su Yi's calm eyes flashed with a trace of undetectable fluctuation, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Even though it was only a short period of time, Su Yi was still touched by their usual banter and jokes when they were serious. Yun Jing shook her head and signaled Su Yi to be at ease. I can't defeat the two elders of the sacred mountain, but I can still deal with the small fries. Then Yun Jing smiled faintly. She leaned close to Su Yi's ear and whispered, My future husband will definitely be a peerless hero who can break through the heavens. When Ouyang Yuanfeng saw the two of them acting so lovey-dovey with each other, he was instantly enraged. Dense metal-attributed origin chi gushed forth, transforming into a terrifying tidal wave that directly enveloped Su Yi. Su Yi, are you still not going to reveal your true face? As the king of heaven's chosen, he didn't dare to show his true face? Coward! Yun Jing took a deep breath, and her expression changed slightly. She changed her hand seals, trying to get Su Yi to move away. Su Yi, let me do it. Schwa. Su Yi pulled off his disguise and turned around. A cold aura shot out from his body, causing the surrounding air to turn cold. A monstrous battle intent burned in his eyes. His robes fluttered in the wind. His slender and tall body was like a proud young god of war, standing proudly between heaven and earth. The origin chi that gushed out like a volcano made people tremble. Su Yi's expression darkened as he said decisively, If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Boom! Su Yi's entire body was enveloped in divine light, and the true chi in his body surged like an ocean through his thick meridians, triggering the blazing and majestic fire attribute energy. Immediately, half of the sky was dyed red. In the next instant, Su Yi's wings fluttered, and like a flaming butterfly, he arced through the air, leaving behind countless afterimages. His palms transformed into crimson flames, bringing with them a tyrannical aura of destruction as they blasted towards Ouyang Yuanfeng. The crushing aura made Ouyang Yuanfeng fearful. This aura wasn't something a second-level Origin Emperor realm could display. After that, Ouyang Yuanfeng's body swayed in the wind. Light shot out from his eyes as a claw shot out. The claw brought along a sonorous metal-attributed energy and actually tore the space apart. The incomparably ferocious energy enveloped the void. Under the impact of the sacred metal-attributed radiance, Su Yi's body was instantly pushed back by a dozen steps. The enormous energy swept out, and the demon god battle armor that automatically protected his body trembled slightly. The diamond body that was filled with dragon's breath was constantly emitting tiny rays of light that dispersed the energy from Ouyang Yuanfeng's claw. The torrential energy wave only made Su Yi's robes flutter, making him look even more majestic. His chi and blood were suppressed after a slight surge. The chilling intent emerged, and he was like a young god of war, looking down at the world with disdain. How is this possible? A second-level Origin Emperor realm martial artist blocked my golden wind sky splitting claw. Ouyang Yuanfeng had never heard of such physical strength. Su Yi was much stronger than when he left more than a year ago. I will let you know what true strength is. Su Yi, who was only relying on the Origin Supreme technique, was constantly growing taller. Su Yi's figure could be vaguely seen in the torrential flames. Behind him, an incomparably huge Emperor Sparrow's image fused together. The surging and boundless aura was like an ancient immemorial traversing uncontrollably. Su Yi's body was surrounded by a pair of scarlet golden eyes. A surge of towering fury and supreme demonic aura swept across the void. The chanting of sacrificial chants revolved around Su Yi's body. The chanting in the air was endless and sonorous. Ouyang Yuanfeng, your so-called Saint Mountain is just worthless trash. Su Yi's eyes were cold. Su Yi, who was in the midst of the raging flames, was imposing and imposing. Bullshit. You. The Saint Mountain is an existence that you will never be able to set foot on. Ouyang Yuanfeng roared in anger. Ouyang Yuanfeng's eyes were filled with unconcealable rage. The Saint Mountain was his life's pride. He would not allow anyone to tarnish it. At the same time, he condensed his hand seals continuously. Waves of divine chi filled the void. This little bit of Saint Monarch chi is enough to suppress an ant like you who has never seen the great Tao of the world. Rumble. The entire space was like a storm, gradually distorting. Waves of terrifying energy gushed in from all directions, bringing along an immense pressure that exploded on the plaza. Sonic booms resounded through the heavens and earth. The terrifying might of the Dharma manifestations caused the heavens and earth to tremble violently. The clouds changed color, and the radiance was like a torrential wave. Come, let's fight, Su Yi roared. Amidst the monstrous energy storm, a screeching sound that seemed to pierce through the clouds and shatter rocks swooped down with the determination to destroy billions of lives. Billowing flames swept out in all directions as if they wanted to kill the heavens and the earth. Walala! The blazing aura, the towering demonic aura, and the sacred golden radiance caused Li Ling, who was watching from behind the forest, to feel her heart palpitating. The Emperor Sparrow flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The golden radiance soared into the sky as the two clashed together brazenly. The void trembled, and the flames whistled. The golden radiance and flames were like fireworks in the sky. Under the gorgeous radiance, a human figure retreated rapidly. Ouyang Yuanfeng's face was slightly pale. His beautiful eyes were filled with boundless shock. Chapter 1556. Impossible. How can he be so strong? This is clearly not the aura of a second-level origin sovereign. Ouyang Yuanfeng murmured in shock. Su Yi's figure was lofty in the void. His footsteps were slightly shaky as he came to a stop. At this moment, he had fused with the Emperor Sparrow's shadow. His body was bathed in golden flames, like a god of death. After experiencing the battle in the Nine Stars Calamity Sea, Su Yi's combat experience and wisdom had improved tremendously. With just the Emperor Sparrow's means, Su Yi could fight a ninth-level origin sovereign to death. In the vast domain of Ouyang Jinwei, the wind and clouds were surging. The sacred aura soared to the nine heavens as a terrifying pressure constantly pressed down on Ouyang Yuanfeng. This chi of Saint Monarch is quite something. Ouyang Yuanfeng is using the incomplete chi of Saint Monarch to such an effect. All right, let's end this quickly. Su Yi examined the surging aura in his body and said calmly. On the other side, Ouyang Yuanfeng's aura surged. The huge, hazy shadow was like a saint in the sky as he said faintly, "Don't think that you can ignore the existence of Saint Mountain just because you killed a few disciples of Saint Mountain. Saint Mountain is an existence that you can never surpass." His aura soared to the heavens as his eyes turned red. In an instant, Su Yi looked at the huge, hazy shadow and clenched his fist. The space in front of him began to distort and shatter like a piece of paper. A huge fist erupted with sacred aura, bringing along a thunderous sound. The pressure shook the heavens and was enough to crush everything. Ouyang Yuanfeng's golden eyes surged with a trace of awe-inspiring qi as divine radiance surged around his body. The imposing aura of a saint coupled with the peerless might of a ninth-level origin sovereign seemed to have the sun, moon, and stars flowing around. Su Yi, I want you to pay for Wei Er's cultivation with your life. Su Yi, Yun Jing exclaimed behind him. Her eyes were filled with nervousness. Boom! Su Yi, who was high up in the sky, shouted with a thunderous voice, I will take revenge for Saint Mountain myself. Bang! The Emperor Sparrow flapped its wings, and the sea of fire was filled with boundless, baleful qi. The godly flame was like a ferocious beast that wanted to destroy everything in the world. The space rippled like boiling water and spread in all directions. Bang! Above the void, an earth-shattering roar of thunder resounded throughout the universe. The surrounding grass and stones were all turned into flying ash. His roar was like thunder, piercing through the clouds and splitting rocks. A sharp aura filled the air, and scarlet light filled the air. The entire area around Ouyang Jinwei seemed to be experiencing an earthquake, and an incomparably terrifying pressure of heaven and earth filled the air. So strong. Li Ling took Ouyang Jinwei and retreated. Her eyes were filled with shock. Far away in the forest, there was still a figure whose eyes were fiercely twitching. Yun Jing took the wood's spiritual god, and with a turn of her body, they retreated to a distance of 300 feet. Such a battle between a second-level Origin Emperor realm and a ninth-level Origin Emperor realm expert of the Saint Mountain. Such a challenge made Yun Jing's heart flutter. Her battle intent and passion were ignited continuously. She knew that Su Yi had yet to use all his trump cards. Finally, the person I want is here. Mother, can you see it? Yun Jing's eyes were filled with tears, and her lips were trembling. Kaka, under the incomparably violent attack of the captain, the cracks on the ground spread out, and countless spiderweb-like patterns were revealed. Both of them retreated. Su Yi's body was glowing with resplendent radiance. The 4 rays of light were incomparably sacred. His robe was fluttering, and the flaming runes were surging around his body. He was like a young war god that looked down on the ancient firmament. At this moment, Ouyang Yuanfeng's eyes gradually turned solemn. Su Yi's talent was beyond his understanding. At the age of 18 or 19, Su Yi's cultivation was actually comparable to his cultivation that he had cultivated for dozens of years. If he didn't go all out today, it would be difficult to kill this brat. Ouyang Yuanfeng's Yuan Qi had already been depleted by more than half. Looking at Su Yi's surging radiance, he believed that Su Yi had reached the end of his road. Ouyang Yuanfeng's eyes flickered, and his eyes were cold. He felt the aura from the dense forest behind him, and he cursed in his heart, what an old man, hiding behind to watch the show. On second thought, Ouyang Yuanfeng also felt relieved. Anyway, he found an excuse to come here for wire. It would be best if he could snatch the crimson, clear sky crystal. Right now, he had to deal with Su Yi first, and then he would deal with this lapdog. At this moment, Ouyang Yuanfeng's killing intent surged again. He wanted to go all out and kill Su Yi in an instant. Suddenly, it was as if a god had descended from the sky. The sky was filled with a giant sacred light phantom that enveloped Su Yi, bringing about gusts of wind and clouds. Chila! Su Yi directly spread his wings in the air, and the Emperor Sparrow phantom behind him screeched. At this moment, his scarlet flames soared, burning the heaven and earth. The surroundings were constantly surging with fiery scarlet spatial ripples, releasing an unparalleled demonic aura. The four seas and the heaven and earth burn. I gallop in the ancient world, boundless eight desolates. Only I am supreme. This sentence appeared in Su Yi's mind, and an incomparably heavy giant sword appeared in his hand. It was the blood demon killing god sword that had accompanied Su Yi for many years. Old friend, we meet again. Let's cultivate together in the future. Su Yi's lips curled up slightly, and he looked coldly at the heaven and earth. In the Emperor Sparrow phantom, the phantom behind him constantly flapped its wings, and the scarlet flames were like the supreme divine fire, burning everything in the world. The wings produced an endless storm, shattering the golden sacred light phantom that filled the sky. Su Yi, who was wrapped in flames and golden light, slowly closed his eyes and entered a state of enlightenment. Li Ling covered her mouth and exclaimed, "What is he doing?" The unparalleled attack brought along a powerful storm, and it directly blasted in front of Su Yi. Ouyang Yuanfeng sneered and said, "Knowing that you're going to die, you're going to surrender." Only Yunjing's eyes were filled with seriousness and deep thought. She muttered, "No, he is in an epiphany. He has entered a frightening stage of sword intent comprehension." The blood demon killing god sword in Su Yi's hand was like a heavenly battle axe. The Emperor Sparrow phantom burned with raging flames, and its wings produced a storm, shattering the shocking sacred light. When Su Yi held the heavy sword in his hand, the ancient runes on the sword began to flow with an unfathomable mystery. In Su Yi's hand, the sword light cut through the air, causing the surrounding air to violently fluctuate. Phoenix holding the sword, flames burning the heavens. At this moment, Su Yi was the epitome of the Bawang sect. Facing the sacred mountain, Su Yi had carried the Bawang sect on his shoulders, walking step by step until now. Ouyang Yuanfeng, who was already close at hand, constantly surged with golden light, as if he was affected by the energy that crossed the heavens and earth. The surging battle intent in his body was like a tide, and his eyes were fixed on Su Yi. This time, he also could not retreat. He was the Central State City's city lord, a direct disciple of the sacred mountain. He looked at the crippled Ouyang Jinwei lying on the ground. Chapter 1557. Die. In the next moment, Ouyang Yuanfeng's palm imprint changed. The monstrous Saint Ruler seal was like a palm imprint that came from the depths of the void. It carried a divine aura that filled the sky and directly aimed at Su Yi's face. At the same time, both of his eyes opened wide as his aura was completely released and swept across the area. A furious shout came from Su Yi's mouth. The blood demon killing god sword in his hand was covered in flames as a bloody light flowed around. Su Yi tapped his foot lightly in the air. The moment the flying sword left his body, he grabbed the hilt of the god-slaying sword tightly. The sword flashed, and a mystical rune circled around it. It was like a real blood-red giant sword. Heavy sword technique, blood phoenix rends the sky. Whoosh whoosh. In the blink of an eye, a bloody arc of sword light turned into an incomparably sharp light shadow in the sky. It cut through the air and emitted a whoosh-whoosh sound. An incomparably sharp aura spread out and engulfed the surroundings. The sword light was like a brilliant sun that could swallow the heaven and earth. After the blood demon killing god sword rushed forward, the huge divine Emperor Sparrow's shadow followed along with the sword. It released an incomparably terrifying aura that caused the void to tremble. The eyes of the Emperor Sparrow's shadow surged like the flames of hell, bright and dazzling like the sun that held up the sky. The incomparably sharp Emperor Sparrow's claw seal and the heaven-shaking sword intent that set off a monstrous wave suddenly created an endless scarlet light. It was like a boundless sea of fire that blocked the golden light. The combination of sword intent and Yuan Qi. Yun Jing's eyes flashed with astonishment. In such an intense battle, to be able to use sword intent to such an extent, what kind of talent was this? Yun Jing's eyes were constantly overflowing with nervousness. She was also worried about the situation on the battlefield. It was as if she could see the magnificent scene of Su Yi fighting against heroes in the future. Although his cultivation was still very low, his talent was not bad at all. Yun Jing's heart was like a raging sea. In her eyes, Su Yi was soaring up and down, like a supreme son of God that crossed over from ancient times with invincible divine might. Even if the Saint Mountain is the sky, I will still split open a path to the heavens. Su Yi shouted as his aura surged unceasingly. The great emperor bird flapped its wings and attacked with all its might. The great emperor bird's sword chi surged and collided with the holy monarch chi in the air. The divine bird screeched, and heaven and earth trembled. Rumble. The extremely terrifying collision seemed to be about to destroy the entire Li family's ancestral temple. Layers of spatial ripples surged, and the incomparably bright light of primordial chi was blurred and dazzling in the forest. Chilala. The holy light phantom shattered, and the sky was filled with endless shattered light rain. It was as if fireworks were rising. Wherever the strong wind swept past, all the plants and trees were turned into nothingness and scattered in the air. Chi-chi, Su Yun Jing shouted. The moment the strong wind dissipated, Su Yi's figure retreated like a cannonball. Yun Jing controlled the wood spiritual god and caught Su Yi. The all-out attack just now had greatly depleted the great void divine ocean in Su Yi's body. The blood in his body was surging, and a mouthful of blood flowed out from his mouth as he smiled helplessly. Ouyang Yuanfeng, who was also flying back, smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. Ouyang Yuanfeng's skin was peeling off like tiles. His eyes were crimson red, like a man made of blood. Blood kept flowing out his mouth. Clearly, he had suffered heavy injuries. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't know that the second-level origin sovereign Su Yi had the physical strength of an origin ancestor realm cultivator. Even without a saint artifact, I can still defeat a half-step Saint Mountain expert. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. On the other side, Ouyang Yuanfeng, who was falling, was caught by a thin figure in the air. Instantly, a surge of holy aura surged in the air again. Among the huge, hazy figure, a proud and fierce figure stood in front of Ouyang Yuanfeng. The cold aura was like a strong wave that swept across. Fifth Saint, Li Ling shouted in surprise. Oh no, why is the fifth saint here too? There's a change in the plan, the shadow behind the forest said softly. Hearing the voice, Su Yi, who had jumped up from the wood's spiritual god's palm, had a dazzling light in his eyes. Looking at the proud figure in the distance, Su Yi's indifferent voice sounded from his mouth. He came so quickly too. Since the fifth saint came so quickly, the two peerless experts, Su and Lu, wouldn't be far away. If this continued, there would be no time to snatch the crimson heavenly crystal. Kid, use my demonic aura. These trash can be killed instantly. A trace of killing intent flashed in the iron soulfish's eyes. He was displeased with the holy aura that filled the sky. Su Yi's deep eyes were filled with determination. He said in a deep voice, "Unless there's no other choice, I want to rely on my own method." The iron soulfish's mouth twitched as he continued to lie in the origin aura. He said calmly, "Good, good, good. Let's see what you can do." Xiahong Lu stood with his hands behind his back. His long black hair flowed down like a waterfall. The huge, hazy figure behind him was like a god, suppressing the entire world. He glanced at Su Yi faintly, and his angry voice resounded through the sky. Every word was sonorous and powerful, shattering the world and spreading in all directions. Elder Wang, the disciples of the sacred mountain, are facing a great enemy and are seriously injured. Are you, Elder Wang, going to ignore them? Wang Chuanda. Su Yi knew it was Wang Chuanda's name when he heard it. However, he found it strange that Xiahong Lu didn't attack him first. Instead, he attacked this coward. For a long time, the entire Li clan's ancestral shrine was dead silent. There was no sound at all. Only the sounds of the barbaric demon beasts and the sacred mountain disciples fighting in the distance could be heard. Boom! Xiahong Lu's face turned cold. The killing intent in his eyes was like a monstrous wave that rolled over heaven and earth. With a flip, the giant holy light hand pushed back heavily. His eyes were like the sun, shooting out a bright light. The holy aura immediately rolled and collapsed. Bang! With a deafening sound, the entire golden handprint whizzed out of the fifth holy sun's sleeves like a wave of energy. It was so powerful that it directly overturned all the trees behind it. Smoke and dust filled the sky, and the killing intent was bleak. From the depths of the forest, a stooped old man in his 50s with half-white hair and a beard walked out. Su Yi couldn't be more familiar with this figure. Finally willing to come out, Su Yi sneered. In fact, Su Yi already knew that Wang Chuanda was secretly hiding in the forest. However, Ouyang Yuanfeng had been fighting with him and couldn't split himself up. Wang Chuanda walked up awkwardly. His legs were trembling slightly, and he was a little weak. He half knelt to salute the saint and said, "Subordinate Wang Chuanda greets the fifth saint." Fifth saint also came in. Xiahong Lu looked at Wang Chuanda like a god looking down on all living things. With a cold snort, a strong killing intent and chill surged in his heart. If I didn't come, I wouldn't have been able to see this good show. If I didn't come, how would I know that this bloody scene was caused by you? Chapter 1558. Bang! The words were like a giant frost sword, piercing into the hearts of everyone present. Su Yi and Yun Jing's faces immediately turned cold. Wang Chuanda immediately knelt down, lowered his head, and suddenly kowtowed without replying. Who gave you the courage to slaughter the Li clan without regard for the holy mountain's reputation? Who gave you the courage to disregard the friendship of your fellow disciples and watch Ouyang City's main force fight against foreign enemies? Just a few words were like a great bell from beyond the heavens, enlightening even the apathetic. The minds of everyone present shook, and Yun Jing and Su Yi were even more confused by Xiahong House's words. Su Yi and Yun Qing both looked serious. The fifth saint did not directly attack them, but directly taught Wang Chuanda a lesson. Was this a two-man show? Wang Chuanda's aura became very small under Xiahong House's mighty aura. His legs trembled uncontrollably, and he kept kowtowing. Saying, I was only following the saint's orders. The Holy Lord wants to. Wang Chuanda was trembling. This was the first time he had seen Xiahong House so angry. Although he was an elder, he was actually just an errand boy on the holy mountain in terms of merit, cultivation, and status. Bang! Suddenly, a domineering and majestic aura, as if suppressing the ancient times and looking down on heaven and earth, whizzed out from between Xiahong House's brows. A streak of golden light cut off Wang Chuanda's arm like a thunderbolt. Ah! Suddenly, a tragic scream rang out from outside the Li family's ancestral hall. Li Ling and everyone else present felt their hair stand on end. They saw Wang Chuanda's severed arm tumbling down continuously. Li Ling kicked it away and sent it flying far away. Wang Chuanda's face was ashen, and his eyes were filled with horror and shock. Holding his bleeding arm, Wang Chuanda's eyes gradually turned cold as he panted and shouted, "Xiahong House, you dare to touch this old man." Xiahong Lu's eyes were filled with coldness. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife as it shot towards Wang Chuanda. Her soul pressure was like a torrential wave that pressed Wang Chuanda to the ground, making him unable to move. "I am one of the 9 holy sons, a mere sanctimonious person. Just because you don't care about the friendship of fellow disciples, he deserves to die." The vast sound waves were like a mysterious power that had traversed through time and space, descending from the ancient times. The unquestionable voice of the Xiahong House was like the arrival of a saint. What a powerful soul force. "Su-yi, you have to be careful. I'm afraid he's not below you." Yin Qing frowned slightly. Xiahong Lu, who was at the 2nd level of the Origin Emperor realm, actually had such violent soul force. Compared to Wang Chuanda, who was at the 4th level of the Origin Emperor realm, Wang Chuanda was simply like the difference between clouds and mud. Just now, the Blood Phoenix Sky splitting sword had caused Su-yi to consume a large amount of Yuan Qi. The Yuan Qi in the wide meridians within his body was flowing chaotically. Su-yi frowned and said in his heart, "Do I really have to use the Saint Artifact here?" The Saint Artifact had always been his absolute trump card. Unless it was a crucial moment, Su-yi didn't want to use it. In the battle with the Xiahong House, Su-yi hoped to use his true strength to defeat the Xiahong House. This was also the reason why he chose the Blood Demon Killing God Sword. This was because Su-yi believed that the Xiahong House was someone who could challenge those of a higher realm like him. If the Xiahong House couldn't even defeat him, how could he compete with the baying Divine Sun and the continent's heroes? Seeing the Xiahong House's hand seals continuously condensing, the killing intent gradually rising, and the scarlet light between his brows spreading to the bottom, Su-yi loudly stopped him. "Wait, Wang Chuanda and he had a blood feud he had cultivated for so many years just to get back at Wang Chuanda. More importantly, Wang Chuanda was the main culprit of the Li clan's destruction. How could he let the Xiahong House take the initiative? The Xiahong House didn't take his eyes off him and coldly said, "Outsiders are not allowed to interfere when disciplining fellow disciples." Then the holy aura in his hand surged again. "It's not your turn to take his life here." The sudden voice made the Xiahong House pause for a moment. He turned around and looked at Su-yi with eyes full of killing intent, revealing disdain and contempt. He sized Su-yi up and down, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. A dead person has no right to take another's life. As soon as he finished speaking, the Xiahong House's figure did not move. The hand seals in his hand changed, and a golden hand seal condensed and slapped out. At the same time, the space between his brows emitted a saint ruler aura that covered the sky and earth, rolling towards Su-yi. "I'll do it," Yin Qing exclaimed softly. Su-yi blocked with his hand, and the surging battle intent and fire aura in his body were ignited. His figure rose into the air again, and in an instant, the fire attribute Yuan Qi around him blazed like the sun, as if it was a mysterious power that had transcended time and space. Roar! The shadow of a golden dragon stretched out from Su-yi's body, spanning 100 zhang in the night sky. Its huge divine body covered half of the sky, and its scales opened and closed, brazenly appearing in the world. Raging flames lit up the sky, shocking the heavens. In the sky, the dragon's roar shook the heavens, as if it had transcended the ancient times. Amidst the resplendent light, a powerful aura of a dragon swept through the void between heaven and earth. The golden dragon soared into the sky, and its fierce eyes were dazzling as it shot towards the Xiahong House. Under the vast aura, Wang Chuanda and Li Ling's hair stood on end for no reason. They sucked in a breath of cold air and circulated their Yuan Qi to protect themselves. At this moment, the spectators, including Yunqing, were dumbfounded. She said softly, Su Yi's aura is actually able to withstand the fifth Holy Prince's Saint Ruler aura. The scene in front of them was too terrifying. The aura was vigorous, and it filled the void. There is a difference of 8 to 9 years between the two of them, and the fifth Holy Prince is already a rare genius of the Holy Mountain. But this Su Yi, Li Ling revealed a shocked expression. Su Yi's talents and gifts were too frightening. If they were to let him go today, then it would be a disaster for the Holy Mountain in the future. At the same time, the Xiahong house also realized that Su Yi's strength and potential was much greater than the rumored king of Heaven's Pride. The Xiahong house, who had always been in seclusion, had ascended to the second level of the Origin Emperor realm after coming out from the Spirit Treasure Tower. They originally thought that they were invincible in the same realm, but the current Su Yi was a huge threat to them. Whoosh! Their auras collided, causing the void to tremble. When the Xiahong house was about to kill Wang Chuanda, Su Yi's aura dissipated while he channeled the rising Yao Hunter transformation steps. He drew a long shadow in the sky as he violently rushed towards the Xiahong house. At this moment, the heaven and earth shook as the winds and clouds surged. The Xiahong house, who was neither fast nor slow, slightly trembled behind her. She didn't even turn her head as she sent out a palm strike from the sky. Su Yi channeled the Origin Supreme art to the extreme. The great void divine sea's vitality was like a great river. The rising Yao Hunter transformation steps twisted in an instant, and with a twist and turn, he directly dodged the huge palm strike. In the next moment, he was right next to the Xiahong house. The Xiahong house's eyes slightly narrowed. She was clearly surprised by Su Yi's strength and speed. She no longer underestimated him as the energy around her body erupted, and a golden light suddenly burst out to protect her body. Chapter 1559. A majestic force swept across. Looking at Xiahong Lu, who was at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm, Su Yi could feel the saint light pressure that was much stronger than Ouyang Yuanfeng's. Although Xiahong Lu's cultivation was low, he was definitely not weaker than Ouyang Yuanfeng with his saint ruler qi. At this moment, Su Yi was crazily surging his yuan qi without holding back at all. He had to end this battle quickly against Xiahong Lu. Su Yi's eyes flickered with killing intent. He suddenly pushed his palms forward, and the joints in his body suddenly emitted a series of crackling sounds. Majestic wind accompanied by raging flames directly hit Xiahong Lu, blazing fire sky net palm. Immediately, the sound of wind and thunder rumbled in the air. Countless palm prints flew around in the air, bringing with them flames that filled the sky. The scorching heat was dazzling as it enveloped the Xiahong house and Wang Chuanda. Saint Monarch Protective Qi. Li Ling, who was standing in the distance, murmured as she looked at Xiahong Lu in the flames. The Saint Monarch Protective Qi was a unique martial skill of the Holy Mountain's Holy Princes. It relied on the Saint Monarch Qi to activate it, and was an absolute defense unique to the Holy Mountain's Holy Princes. Su Yi had seen it on Nalan Ryu before. So what? The people of the Sacred Mountain must die? Huh! Su Yi shouted in his heart. If Nalan Ryu could be defeated, Xiahong Lu could also defeat him. In the impenetrable flaming palm prints, the scarlet light and strong wind were incomparably mighty. Su Yi's figure leaped, flashing and twisting, constantly changing his posture. In an instant, a faint golden light surged from the bottom of Su Yi's feet. The sound of a dragon's roar was endless. Majestic elemental yuan qi gathered on the soles of his feet, forming an incomparably huge footprint. 8 desolation wrath, 9 extinction shaking heaven and earth. The footprint covered the sky and covered the earth. It was a fierce kick that was suffused with a mysterious light. Each kick was fiercer than the previous one. The light waves of the footprints that filled the air shattered the space in front of him, and countless spatial cracks and ripples were constantly produced. The wrath of the 8 desolates, a martial technique that originated from the primordial origin supreme technique, exuded an incomparably ferocious power at this moment. Under the footprints, ripples and cracks appeared in the space, and the power collapsed the heavens and the earth. It directly bombarded the Xiehong House's Saint King protective chi. Bang, bang, bang. Endless sonic booms rang out from the storm-like attacks, causing everyone to tremble. They were dazzled and had difficulty breathing. Can the Xiehong House withstand such a ferocious attack? Yun Jing's eyes darkened. Crash! A beam of golden light shot out from the flames. Zhu Honglu shouted loudly, and a strange vortex suddenly appeared in the hazy figure. A light even more dazzling than before swept through the world. In an instant, Su Yi, who was retreating, and Xiehong House, who had erupted, looked at each other in the air. Both of them had quite a bit of surprise in their eyes. Su Yi noticed that Wang Chuanda, who was next to Xiehong House, was on the verge of death. He was covered in wounds. Earlier, when the Saint King Qi and the Golden Dragon Qi collided, his Qi had already become chaotic. Blood was constantly flowing out from the corner of his mouth. It was extremely miserable. Looking at Su Yi and Xiehong House again, Su Yi's eyes were solemn. His body was slightly damaged due to the intense collision. Torn pieces of cloth fluttered in the air. Su Yi, who was surrounded by flames, was like a young god standing proudly in the sky. On the other side, Xiehong House, who was dressed in yellow, was looking at Su Yi with a gloomy gaze. A few strands of hair that were scattered by the attack fell between his brows. No wonder Nalen lost. Your strength is enough to be ranked among the saint children. Xiehong House coldly said, Did you go to the Chaos Region to find me? That time, at the Spirit Treasure Tower. Su Yi was also calm. Facing Xiehong House's extreme soul suppression, Su Yi did not fall into a disadvantageous position at all. You are not qualified for me to find you. Xiehong House glared at Su Yi. It was as if he did not want to mention that he had been to the Chaos Region to Su Yi. Su Yi could feel the strange movement in the depths of Xiehong House's soul. That uncontrollable battle intent and uneasiness surged again. Su Yi, this guy's killing intent is very strange. It doesn't seem to be directed at you, but it's very strong. Let me help you. Yin Qing transmitted her voice. The wood spiritual god's incomparably huge body was ready to move. It was as if a vast and invincible god had descended into the world. No hurry, Su Yi faintly replied. Layers of ripples constantly surged in the air around Xiehong House. It was as if a handsome young man had walked out of a painting. He looked at the wreckage on the ground and heard the wails and screams as he coldly snorted. The Holy Mountain massacred the Li clan. You also killed so many people from the Holy Mountain. I don't need to pursue this matter. There will naturally be someone who will settle the score with you. The Holy Mountain is not something you can touch. Xiehong House's words shocked Li Ling and Su Yi. All the disciples of the Holy Mountain were proud of the Holy Mountain. But this fifth holy son was indifferent to the Holy Mountain's calamity. Fifth saint, you. Li Ling wanted to say something, but stopped herself. This was not something a saint should say. However, I must obtain the crimson water heavenly crystal. If you want to snatch it, Dai. Xiehong House's killing intent surged. His voice was like thunder, and the void trembled. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, the clamor in the distance began to suppress. Elder Su and Elder Lu's voices were like 9 heavenly thunders that surged between heaven and earth. Quickly investigate. Who did it? I want to tear him into pieces. Old man, bastard from the Holy Mountain have occupied our 100-herb mountain for so many years. Everyone listen up, fight. The extreme Thunder Demon Lion's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as he spoke to Elder Su. In the distance, divine birds shook the sky. Fierce beasts surrounded the entire mountain forest. An extremely terrifying beast tide broke out again. The beasts roared, and the mountain forest shook. The continuous sonic booms and wails that filled the mountains made the people of the Leaf family's ancestral shrine even more terrified. Their eyes were filled with horror. Those 2 old fogies are here. We definitely can't defeat them. Yin Qing said with a frown. Sui looked at Xiahong House's covetous eyes. It was as if a disdainful gaze that could purify all things filled the world. Everyone who looked at it from afar would feel their hearts palpitate. He muttered to himself. Xiahong House did not use his true trump card, and he could not guarantee that he could finish him off instantly. Fighting was not a wise choice. He glared fiercely at Ouyang Jinwei and Ouyang Yuanfeng. These two from the Ouyang clan are really troublesome. However, Xiahong House doesn't seem to want Elder Su and Elder Lu or Wang Chuanda to find the Crimson Water Heavenly Crystal. Su Yi said with a frown. Aren't they from the same lineage? Yin Jing was a little puzzled. This time, the Holy Mountain had temporarily received the punishment they deserved. Su Yi also felt comforted. The Holy Mountain had suffered enough losses. All that was left was to clean up the battlefield. Once Su Yi left, Elder Su and Elder Lu would no longer pursue the matter of the beast tide. Following which, Su Yi probed with his mind and said to the Iron Soulfish, Old Iron, is the power of the Heavenly Crystal Remnant enough to activate the Crimson Water Heavenly Crystal? It's enough. Use your demonic chi to catalyze the incantation I gave you. Naturally, the concealment method will be broken, and the Crimson Water Heavenly Crystal will be revealed. Chapter 1560. Su Yi nodded slightly and looked at Xiahong House. Since that's the case, I can bring you to the Crimson Water Crystal and find a place where no one is around to have a good fight. No one is allowed to interfere. Otherwise, I will destroy the crystal dust. No one is allowed to take it. Xiahong House's expression turned serious, and his cold aura was filled with frost. He thought to himself, what are your conditions? Su Yi raised a finger. This Xiahong House was different from the people from the Sacred Mountain that he knew. He said softly, I only have one condition. Leave Wang Chuanda to me. Xiahong House glanced at Wang Chuanda from the corner of his eyes and snorted coldly. However, Li Ling was very anxious and frowned. She had never seen Su Yi's potential and scheming in her life. Li Ling was afraid that Xiahong House would meet with misfortune if he went alone. Saint, you can't go. Why? A saint only has this much courage. Su Yi chuckled. Elder Su and Elder Lu's early arrival had also shattered Xiahong House's thoughts. Xiahong House's lips curled up. Fine, I'll go with you. Whether you get it or not, you will die. That depends on whether you have the ability. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a sharp glint. Looking at the monstrous noise in the distance, Su Yi looked at the dying Wang Chuanda and said to Yun Qing, Qinger, bring that old man along. This Xiahong House is very strange. Do you really want to fight him head-on? Yin Qing whispered. Yin Qing wasn't worried about Su Yi's strength and battle prowess. She just thought that Xiahong House could kill Wang Chuanda because he didn't help his fellow disciples. On the other hand, the massacre of the Sacred Mountain could be compared to the massacre of the Li family and not be pursued. It was as if he, the saint, didn't care about the Sacred Mountain. In comparison, he didn't even have as much faith in the Sacred Mountain as Ouyang Yuanfeng. People like Xiahong House were extremely terrifying. No one could know what they were thinking. Holy Son, I'll go too, Li Ling said worriedly. Li Ling flew to Xiahong House's side. The moment she got close, she could feel the rage and killing intent surging from Xiahong House. Li Ling knew that Xiahong House was determined to succeed this time. No need. Xiahong Lu glanced at Li Ling, an undetectable ripple flashing in her eyes, but her attitude was still very cold. Li Ling looked troubled as she clenched her fists tightly in front of her chest. Killing intent soared to the heavens in the 6 regions. What is that? That's an ancient remnant soul. Who's there? There's an expert there. Elder Su and Elder Lu's eyes flickered as they looked at the giant emerald statue on the horizon. 5th Holy Son. There was the aura of a saint ruler over there. Everyone, go to the Li clan's ancestral hall and kill everyone in the Li clan's ancestral hall. Elder Su howled towards the sky, indicating for everyone to go to the Li clan's ancestral hall. The deafening sound was like a sound wave, instantly forcing a large number of barbaric beasts to retreat. The incomparably holy aura was like an absolute power that could purify the world, destroying the entire forest. The extreme thunder demon lion and flaming plumed demon condor held on bitterly. Seeing their home being destroyed once again, their hearts were filled with grief. Scum of the holy mountain, I want you dead. The beast's roars were like war drums, stirring up the wind and clouds, and changing the color of the sky. Demonic chi filled the sky, carrying with it the power to destroy the world and clashing with the golden holy aura. Bam, bam, bam. The lingering sonic booms were like an earthquake, shaking the entire valley. Elder Sue and Elder Lu paused again, and a roar came from the horizon again. Evil creatures of the demon race, you've ruined my plans today, and I'll bury your entire clan with you. When Sue heard that the entire 100 Mountain was in a mess, his heart skipped a beat. He used his divine senses to sense the spreading sea of fire in the distance, and more disciples of the holy mountain rushed into the forest. The stench of blood permeated the air, and the tide of brute Yao beasts was gradually controlled. The golden-armored warriors rushed into the forest like a tidal wave, piercing through countless brute Yao beasts, knocking them down and incinerating them. The stench of blood filled the air. Rumble. The spirit aura that filled the sky was like a sunset. Dark clouds rolled, thunder rumbled, and lightning flashed. The wind and clouds were faintly discernible, and the lightning was dazzling. Crash. Yun Qing, who was controlling the wood's spiritual god, placed Wang Chuanda on her hand. Su clenched his teeth, and blood seemed to seep out of his eyes. He said to the two demon ancestor realm martial artists who were still bitterly holding on, Senior Demon Lion, Senior Demon Condor, I will give my thanks here, the Bawang sect, and I will engrave this in our hearts. If there is a future, we will definitely thank you for your kindness. As soon as he finished speaking, Su bowed deeply towards the distance, and the indifferent expression of the snow-red house had a slight change. Immediately after, Su Yi's mind turned, and he condensed his hand seals. Between his palms, there were constantly changing light hand seals. With a whoosh, the crimson aqua heaven crystal fragment was flung out from his chest. Swish! The entire sky was instantly filled with tiny ice blue icicles. It was dreamy and flashing, and a mysterious and warm radiance was blazing. The recklessly fluttering ice crystals were like fairies surrounding the crimson aqua heaven crystal fragment. Crash! A rhombus-shaped ice crystal constantly rotated and enlarged. It stood in the air and flickered with radiance. The majestic water attribute energy, along with the true chi, converged into a huge spatial light film. Hurry up and leave, Su said to Yun Qing in an urgent voice. Swish, swish, swish. Instantly, a few figures rushed out from the Li clan's ancestral hall like shuttles. In a dense forest, two black figures flashed out. They were Sun Hao and Zhang Dan. They said loudly, Master, here are all the soul-testing origin crystals. The demon sect powerhouse asked me to pass them to you. Hearing that, Ouyaming's heart skipped a beat. He quickly took the spatial bag. The heavy weight was as if he was holding the entire foundation of the 100 Herds Mountain. Su Yi's soaring fury and the vast primordial chi in his body were suppressed. His eyes were red. Bastards of the Holy Mountain, I'll make sure none of you can return from the Tianfeng battle. You two, take care of yourselves. If you're still alive, go to the Xinjiang Gate and wait for me. The laughable and ironic thing was that in the end, the ant-like characters of the Holy Mountain moved Su a little. The two of them quickly nodded and turned back. Glancing at Li Ling, who was staying in place, Su remembered that she was also among them during the Holy Mountain's test. He immediately said in a deep voice, If you want to leave with the Snow Red House, I won't kill you. Li Ling was biased toward him during the Black Fog Conference and everything that happened just now. Su saw it clearly. Instead of staying here and being questioned, he might as well take her with him. As soon as he finished speaking, Su did not look back. He entered the light produced by the celestial crystal's remnants and disappeared in an instant. Li Ling pursed her lips tightly. She sensed the shadows on the horizon. Just as the celestial crystal was about to disappear, she also flew in. Not good. When the remnants disappeared, Elder Su and Elder Lu arrived at the same time. When they saw Ouyang Yuanfeng and Ouyang Jinwei's miserable state, they already understood the cause and effect. At once, their hair and beard stood on end. They were furious and shouted, "I'll kill you! Sui, I'll slaughter your whole family." What about the fifth holy son? The saint can't account for it. Elder Lu said in a deep voice, "Return to the sect. I've had enough along the way. Ignorant brats. If they act on their own and can't get the crimson water crystal back, I won't forgive them." Elder Su's primordial chi attribute moved slightly, and a huge lightning crack appeared in the air. Chapter 1561. A group of Holy Mountain Guards helped Ouyang Jinwei and Ouyang Yuanfeng up, but the two of them were already unconscious. Their eyes rolled back, and their meridians were completely destroyed. Xianyuan ruler's face was gloomy. His sleeves were fluttering, and a murderous aura was emitting from his body. "Dean, how should we deal with Ouyang Yuanfeng and the others?" The deacon behind him asked in a soft voice. Right at this moment, a deacon ran over from afar and scrambled to kneel in front of Dean Xianyuan. He said, Dean, the 100 Mountain has lost 70,000 to 80,000 disciples this time. Over 20,000 barbaric beasts have died, and 2 demon ancestor realm experts have perished in the battle. The most important thing is that the entire 100 Mountain has lost all of its soul measuring crystals. Over 80% of the disciples' spatial bags have been stolen by the barbaric beasts. What? Dean Xuanyuan's eyes were filled with murderous aura as he directly smashed the nearby boulder into pieces. Everyone present could not help but be on tenterhooks. Dean Xuanyuan's face was filled with worry. This time, not only Central State City was out of luck, but the entire 100 Mountain Academy was also out of luck. Even Xianyuan ruler himself could not escape the blame. Ouyang Yuanfeng being crippled was not a big deal, but the key point was that Ouyang Jinwei was now second only to the holy sons and holy daughters. Her mother's influence in Holy Mountain was even more dreadful. Hey, it seems like there will be another bloody storm. Su, you beast, why didn't you just kill him? Isn't this too much? My Xianyuan ruler's grandson is miserable because of you. Dean Xuanyuan's eyes were filled with anger as his aura swept through the world like a storm. Dean, the Su-E that Elder Su mentioned, is he the Su-E from the previous Holy Martial Assembly? The deacon did not dare to say more. Whether it is him or not, 100 Mountain Academy is completely finished. Right? Where is Wang Chuanda? Did you see him? Where did he go? Dean Xuanyuan's eyes narrowed as he looked around and asked the people below. Everyone answered with no. Lu Sierra, Shun Mo, and the others were horrified. They didn't expect that the person they just met was Su-E. With Su-E gone, how are they going to treat the poison in their bodies? They couldn't let the dean know that they were the ones who guided Ouyang Jinwei to the Li family's ancestral hall. They looked at each other. Immediately, he fell to the ground, and his legs went limp. He looked at Dean Xianyuan and said, Dean Xianyuan, this is Su-E. Su-E asked us to snatch the spatial bag and find the soul-measuring crystal for him. Moreover, Elder Wang seemed to have gone to the Li clan's ancestral hall. Dean, Su-E even fed us soul-devouring and bone-tempering pills. Save us. Academy Master Xuanyuan's face immediately turned cold. His robe fluttered, and an even more anxious aura surged up as he spoke in a deep voice. Su-E, this old man will tear you to pieces and scatter your ashes. Everyone, clean up this place. Deacons and above, follow me to the sacred mountain to treat Mayor Ouyang and Miss Jinwei. We will meet the Lord together. Yes, Shen Mo, Lu Shuang, and the others cried as they crawled to the side. They lifted Mayor Ouyang and left the 100 barrier together. After Yun Qing, Su-E, and Shui Honglu passed through the energy of the celestial crystal powder. They entered a world of ice crystals. Countless ice crystals overlapped each other and shone brightly. Standing on a high platform made of ice, Su, Yi, and Shui Honglu's cold aura spread out. Old Tai, this place is pure white. Every piece is like a mirror. Where are we going to find the celestial crystal? Su, he was a little embarrassed and said subconsciously, "Oomph. When the family brought me in, I didn't know anything either. I was only responsible for adding a layer of concealment technique. I could only vaguely feel the aura of the crimson water celestial crystal here. I can guarantee that it is here. Whether you can find it or not depends on your ability." The iron soulfish said leisurely. Su, he raised his hand and tapped his chin. He spread out his mind, and the Origin Supreme technique in his body suddenly circulated rapidly. Rich Yuan Qi attributes suddenly gathered in mid-air, like an energy that transcended heaven and earth, surging and filling the celestial crystal enchantment. On the other side, Shui Honglu's Qi of holy light burst out. A bright light seal was faintly discernible in the center of her palm. The light changed back and forth between her palm, bringing along a long tail that wandered into the distance and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Under the sweeping force, Shui Honglu's eyebrows flashed with a trace of golden light. Dozens of terrifying waves shook between her hand seals again. The blazing and dazzling holy light filled the void and flew into the distance. There was a low whistling sound, and the airflow was violent. The energy of these two people was extremely terrifying. Yin Qing and Li Ling's hearts trembled. The rich spiritual energy in the celestial crystal barrier was suddenly broken, and the shocking sound of thunder suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. The two of them have already begun to compete. Yin Qing faintly glanced at Li Ling beside her, a trace of a smile flashing in her eyes. She did not doubt that Su Yi would be able to obtain victory. Fifth Holy Sun, do your best. Li Ling stood beside her, looking at the clear sky golden light that was constantly surging between Shui Honglu's palms, her eyes filled with anticipation. The two of them had different methods of searching. Su Yi spread out his spiritual sense, searching every small area. Shui Honglu used the Saint Ruler Qi to search every inch of the area, competing to see who could find the person first. After a while, the atmosphere suddenly froze. Yin Qing and Li Ling's breathing became somewhat hurried. The two graceful figures seemed to have become still statues, and the aura around them seemed to have transcended heaven and earth. To be able to find these two people in a place like this trip was not in vain. This time's Heavenly Wind ranking tournament should be very interesting. Let's also let those arrogant and conceited people on the rankings smack their faces. Yun Qing's waist swayed as she gracefully walked to Li Ling's side, teasing, "Elder sister, do you think your lover will be able to find the person, or will my husband win?" Hearing that, Li Ling's eyes rippled with a trace of shyness as she said, "Miss, please conduct yourself with dignity. He is the Lord Holy Sun." "Huh, hypocrite. In a while, if my husband beats you, the little Holy Sun, into a sorry state, don't cry." Yin Qing made a funny face at Li Ling, then leisurely walked toward Su Yi. Yin Qing quietly stood beside Su Yi, graceful and elegant like a quiet jade person, looking at Su Yi with a light in her eyes. Li Ling pursed her cherry lips, her crescent brows slightly furrowed, not making a sound. So, in an instant, Su Yi's eyes opened. Suddenly, a violent wind blew in front of Su Yi, and a violent gust of air swirled up, like a tornado. At the same time, the enormous golden figure behind Shui Honglu trembled slightly, and terrifying energy filled the air. An enormous gust of wind whistled, and golden light shone in all directions as a huge whirlwind engulfed the air. "The crimson heavenly crystal is over there." The two of them simultaneously shouted towards a translucent ice crystal in the northwest direction, their brows filled with surprise. Chapter 1562. In the next instant, Su Yi's hands formed a hand seal with a ghostly speed. The rising Yao's 100 transformation steps and cloud shadows frost steps rapidly flew forward. The ice crystals in the sky faintly overlapped, and Su Yi's figure quickly disappeared among the sky crystals. At the same time, a dazzling golden light erupted from Xiehong House's body. With a push of both hands, dazzling golden light filled the sky with a destructive speed. The hazy shadow behind him seemed to have traveled through the ancient times. The monstrous wind was like a golden wave. Every ray of light gathered together, bringing with it the power to tear apart space. The momentum of lightning converged into a storm that swept through the world. Swish! Xiehong House's figure was also like a human-shaped giant bird, disappearing into the sky of ice crystals. Where are they? In the space formed by countless ice crystals, every movement of Su, Yi, and Xiehong House could be seen. However, there were also countless small Su, Yi, and Xiehong House. It was impossible to know where they were. Li Ling asked somewhat anxiously, "Why bother? Let the men fight among themselves." Yunjing's tongue was like a lotus flower. With a faint smile, she was like an otherworldly fairy. She gently pulled Li Ling's arm and looked at the two men with a smile. "Miss, please be serious. I'll say it again. He is the saint, an existence that I can never hope to reach." Li Ling frowned and sneered. Yunjing's words were like a knife that tore through her heart again and again. "Then you admit that you've thought about it. What?" Li Ling's expression changed. She realized that she had spoken her thoughts out loud and retreated in realization. "If you like it, then fight for it. If you want it, then say it. Don't envy others when you lose it. All of you from the Sacred Mountain are sanctimonious people." Yunjing's expression was ice cold. Her eyes that were suffused with starlight carried a trace of sorrow. "If you like it, then fight for it. If you like it, then fight for it." Li Ling's gaze froze. Yunjing's voice was as ethereal as a swan, constantly reverberating in Li Ling's mind. In a flash, Li Ling's expression gradually became confused. While she was still in shock, Yunjing's body moved slightly and said softly, "Let's go and take a look. They're coming out. They're over there." Li Ling's mind turned at lightning speed. Her eyebrows were still trembling. She was pulled by Yunjing to fly up. In a flash, they came to a high ground that was 1,000 feet away from the two people. She could see the battle very clearly. Su, Yi, and Xiehong Lu stared at each other. Between them stood a huge piece of icy blue mystical crystal that glowed with a dim light. The two of them each held one side of the crystal, refusing to give way to each other. Xiehong Lu's gaze gradually turned solid, and the energy ripples around her continued to ripple as she spoke to Su Yi fiercely. "Give it to me. You think I'll give it to you just because you say so?" Su Yi's heart was also filled with anger. His eyes flickered with a fierce light. A surge of fighting spirit and anger surged in his eyes. Here, he could finally have a good battle with this enemy that he had set in his heart for a long time. "Brat, what's the point of talking nonsense with him? Let me do it. Let's kill him directly." The iron soulfish's entire body crackled. A surge of dark yuan qi gradually surged out from his entrance, but it was suppressed by Su Yi's mysterious ball of light and the Origin Supreme Art. The iron soulfish was immediately discouraged. He didn't say anything else. He snorted softly and closed his eyes again. "Do whatever you want. In any case, don't die for me. I've said it before. Regardless of whether you have the crimson water, heavenly crystal, or not, you have to die." Xiehong Lu's eyes flickered with a piercing chill. "Then let's decide the victor with one slash." He suddenly raised his gaze. He took a big step forward, and a purple gold light exploded from his hand as he shouted loudly. Starry heavenly soul was like a bolt of lightning. It carried the boundless might of the vast heavens as it cut through the air and slashed out a peerless blade light that could destroy a village. The blade light was dazzling as it slashed down. "Fifth holy sun!" Li Ling cried out in alarm. This slash was no small matter. Even Li Ling could feel its terrifying might from such a distance. Soon after, Yun Jing hurriedly covered Li Ling's mouth. Yun Jing said with a smile, "Big sister, it's best that you don't disturb him. Otherwise, you'll lose your life." You. Li Ling instantly felt her elemental aura being locked down by a vast wave of yuan qi, and she couldn't move. Li Ling, who had just developed a favorable impression of Yun Jing, frowned slightly. She cursed in her heart, "Despicable! I'm doing this for your own good. Don't get involved. This isn't a battle you can decide, unless you want your fifth holy son to die." Yun Jing said faintly, as if she could hear Li Ling's thoughts. Li Ling immediately fell silent. Her eyes were slightly dazed, and they were filled with an anxious expression. "Aunt, I'll let you know the strength of the sacred mountain." Xiahong Lu was neither fast nor slow. In the face of such a terrifying attack, her expression became extremely grave. Xiahong Lu's face was ashen. She took a step back, and her robes fluttered. Metal element yuan qi suddenly surged violently. Golden light flickered under her feet, and her figure quickly retreated. The palm print in her hand cooperated with her figure. An ray of light tore through space like lightning. With a sharp sonic boom, it connected with the starry sky soul. In an instant, the sound of wind and thunder resounded, and the fifth holy son's metal element, yuan qi ray, was instantly annihilated. Not good. The fifth holy son's heart was slightly heavy. He didn't expect the saber light to be so earth-shattering that he couldn't dodge it. His holy ruler protective aura circulated again, and the power that he couldn't dodge in time could only be forcefully resisted. Golden light exploded, and a surge of yuan qi surged between heaven and earth along with a divine aura. The silvery white void suddenly became resplendent. Xiahong Lu was hit by the saber, and her holy ruler protective aura trembled incessantly. She slightly stopped the taste of blood in her mouth and restrained her expression. Su Yi's sudden increase in strength was truly beyond her expectations. After stabilizing herself, Xiahong Lu circulated her holy ruler aura, and the huge hazy shadow behind her once again looked down at Su. Several palm prints condensed, and the hazy divine aura above the void spread out again like a cover. A dazzling sword light ruthlessly swept out from her hand, and a dazzling sword wind surged and whistled. Clang! Golden spears clashed, and heaven and earth cracked. Wherever the golden sword light passed, countless ice crystals were instantly destroyed, and the wind and clouds surged, enveloping Su Yi. A muffled sound of thunder resounded, and the energy of heaven and earth dissipated. Su Yi's saber light was dazzling, like the sun in the sky, while Xiahong Lu's sword light was dark and mysterious, like the moon in the sky. It's also a divine weapon. Yun Jing's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Li Ling pushed Yun Jing's hand away with a smug look on her face as she reprimanded. The 9 holy sons of the holy mountain each have a saint weapon. The 5th holy son's 7-feet-long sword is called Hidden Snow. Boom! The sword light fell, and the saber light disappeared. Xiahong Lu's sword-wielding right hand trembled slightly, and a trace of shock flashed in her eyes. Chapter 1563. To be able to use a sacred weapon to such an extent, you are the first at your age. But if you can't escape, you will still die. Xiahong Lu was as cold as ever, but his voice was like thunder. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. With Su Yi's potential, he couldn't let him go. The hidden snow sword danced in the air as if it was twisting the void. A huge radiance like a divine sword from beyond the heavens expanded with the wind. In an instant, Li Ling and Yun Jing's hearts tightened to the extreme. Xiahong Lu's vitality aura expanded to the extreme. Xiahong Lu was no longer holding back. Good timing. You are also worthy of me bringing you in for a battle. Su Yi wasn't anxious. Instead, he was delighted. The unparalleled, great void, deep-sea vitality in his body surged again. The terrifying aura around him combined with the divine radiance made him look like a god descending to the world. This time, Su-yi was extremely eager to defeat Xiahong Lu. Not only did he want to destroy the radiance of the sacred mountain, but he also wanted to test and train himself for a long time. The battle was getting better, and the two of them actually felt like they were on the same level. Boom! Su-yi snorted. He shook his arm continuously and waved the starry soul. His body released the metallic aura of the second level of the Origin Emperor realm without holding back. The surging vitality aura surged from the great void divine sea and poured out like a flood. Finally, it gathered in the starry soul. The sacred weapon blade radiance, mixed with the fire attribute vitality, was even more ferocious. It slashed violently in the air and swept towards Xiahong Lu. The incomparably terrifying purple-gold saber light transformed into 12 streaks of light. When they were about to reach Xiahong House, they once again combined into a gigantic and terrifying saber light that collided with Xiahong House's hidden snow sword. The blade and sword clashed, and it was a struggle. The simple exchange of attacks showed the extremely powerful combat strength of the two. In an instant, the sound of wind and thunder resonated at the place where the blade and sword clashed. Extremely dazzling electric arcs escaped from the golden blade radiance. The wind and thunder were unparalleled, and the void trembled. There was a rumbling sound, and strange phenomena appeared. Accompanied by a sky full of golden radiance, the divine destructive aura was a kind of overlord awakening. The huge pressure of an emperor's descent poured out like a raging storm. The enormous energy that pervaded the world collapsed in a ring-shaped manner, and endless ripples surged toward Yunjing. Thud, thud. Yunjing and Li Ling circulated their primordial qi and suddenly retreated. They were shocked by such an attack. Li Ling's breathing stagnated as she sucked in a cold breath. Huh! Chop him down! Su-yi angrily roared, tightly gripping the heavenly star-shocked soul. A scarlet light fluctuated in his eyes, flashing and disappearing. His head of black hair fluttered behind him, and his ferocious temperament carried a thunderous rage for no reason. Boom, boom, boom. Earth, water, wind, and fire were like divine rings that lit up successively around Su-yi's body. Dense divine radiance rippled out, and it seemed to be formidable and terrifying. It was as if it carried numerous mysterious and ancient markings, causing him to seem like an ancient god of war that had traversed the heavens and the earth and arrived here with a peerless slaughter. The huge saber light was unable to chop down Xiahong House's hidden snow sword. Both of their auras were incomparably domineering and imposing. Xiahong House, who was tightly protected by the holy ruler protective qi, also gritted her teeth. Dazzling light shone as the illusory palm continuously slapped out. The sword's might was slightly reduced, and with another swing of the sword, an incomparably surging holy ruler golden light once again shot out in all directions, vast and mighty in the void. Whoosh! As the sword light surged, Su-yi's Origin Supreme technique had already reached its limit. The blood phoenix rends the sky just now had consumed too much energy and could not be used at all. Far away from the two, the crimson clear sky crystal was flickering with a demonic light. An icy blue aura set off layers of waves in the space, as if it was drawing in the spiritual qi of the world. An ancient aura that seemed to have transcended time spread out. Su-yi's mind was greatly moved. His entire body hummed as he instantly entered a state of self-awareness. Under the terrifying aura, Su-yi let out a low roar. The mysterious ball of light once again resonated with Su-yi's mind. Whoosh! Brat, it's dangerous. The iron soulfish, who was in the entrance, suddenly opened his eyes. He knew what Su-yi was about to do and immediately shouted to stop him. Extreme anger and battle intent filled Su-yi's mind. The mysterious ball of light was incomparably dazzling. At this moment, Su-yi could no longer hear any sound from the outside world. All the sounds of attacks, the howling of the wind, and the whistling of the wind had become incomparably vast. Even the deafening rumbling of the wind and thunder had completely disappeared. Sui felt as if he was in a boundless and empty world. The white light in front of him was a suspended icy blue crystal. If Sui woke up, he would definitely be able to sense that the mysterious ball of light had already turned into a ball of gas that was surging in all directions within his body. It was emitting an incomparably resplendent light. Suddenly, surging vital energy accompanied by a domineering and destructive aura spread out, causing the entire crystal barrier to tremble. His hair fluttered, and his body flowed with a brilliant red light. He was incomparably full. Divine radiance surged around Suyi's body as the image of a golden dragon circled behind him. After a while, the image of the Emperor Sparrow appeared. In an instant, the wind and clouds changed color as the divine bird soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it changed into the sonorous roar of a tiger. What's going on? Natural chaos? Yunjing discovered that something was wrong. Her eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. Whoosh! She saw Suyi's thin figure standing upright in the air. His eyes were bloodshot, and every inch of his skin was incomparably hot like a ruby. The aura that spread out from his body was like that of a war god that wanted to destroy the world, wanting to sweep through everything. This isn't Suyi's power. What exactly is he hiding in his body? Yunjing exclaimed, her eyes filled with horror. Zhuanglu, who was in the midst of the terrifying wind, also felt the same as Sui. She quickly condensed her hand seals, and the hidden snow sword's blade expanded by several feet. At the same time, within her palm, light surged incomparably. Behind her, a vision appeared frequently. Golden Saint Chi filled the sky with the image of wind and cloud surging. Her entire body's chi burst out with a bang, using it to resist Suyi's final power. Every time Sui spoke, hot air would spurt out from his mouth. His eyes were red, and his skin was constantly emitting white gas. The extreme energy that was surging in his body carried the power to destroy everything. The people of the sacred mountain must die. Suyi's voice was incomparably hoarse and dry. Suyi's starry sky, soul, seemed to have sensed it. The purple-gold light shone brightly and directly acted on the hidden blood sword's blade. Bang! Suyi's suddenly skyrocketed strength directly broke through the hidden snow sword's blade. With an incomparably terrifying power, it shook the surroundings and tore apart Zhuanglu's protective genuine chi with a power that could destroy the world. It brazenly fell toward the incomparably huge, hazy figure. Bang, bang, bang. At the place where the golden spears collided, an earth-shattering sound was directly like a sudden clap of thunder. It exploded on the spot, and the air roared incessantly. Chapter 1564. Rumble. The entire celestial crystal barrier suddenly shattered like glass. Countless tiny ice shards flew everywhere. The heavy sound of energy reverberating and the ethereal sound of ice crystals shattering could be heard everywhere. A terrifying gust of wind filled with purplish gold light and golden holy light filled the air. It rushed into the heavens and the earth, causing one's heart to tremble. The holy light shadow dissipated and golden rain fell. Countless strands of energy drifted within the celestial crystal barrier. The world was filled with lightness. Bam! A long blood-red arc flashed in the air. The fifth saint's saber light slammed into him, and he was sent flying into the distance. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Suyi's sudden increase in strength was definitely not something he could possess. He had always been an absolute saint in the sacred mountain, and yet he had been defeated. The holy ruler's chi has been broken. Xiahong Lu was disappointed. Defeated so quickly and completely, Xiahong Lu spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock as he stared at Sui and the crimson water heaven crystal before him. Just as he was about to stand up, a ghastly wound on his shoulder caused him pain. He staggered and fell to the ground again. His face was pale, and blood kept flowing out his body. After the holy ruler's protective chi was broken by the terrifying force, the meridians in his body were damaged. Xiahong Lu could not hold it in any longer. He lay on the ground with a pale face, panting heavily like an old bellows. Fifth Holy Sun, Li Ling shouted loudly. Sui. Yinqing also flew up, tears flowing from her eyes. Yinjing and Li Ling ran toward the two injured people. Li Ling's eyes were misty. She looked at Xiahong Lu's bloody wound, her hands trembling. Are you okay, Saint? Holy Sun. Li Ling gently wiped the blood from the Holy Sun's body. Xiahong Lu was still struggling. He wanted to stand up and get the crimson water heaven crystal. He said, help me get the heaven crystal. Li Ling paused. She gently supported Xiahong Lu and walked step by step toward the heaven crystal. On the other side, Yunjing was even more stupefied. Su Yi's entire body was already as hot as a red-hot soldering iron. Countless cracks had already appeared on his lustrous and smooth skin. The cracks were charred black and constantly emitted hot air. Su Yi's eyes were blood red. No matter how Yunjing called out to him, Su Yi didn't make any sound. Yunjing hurriedly channeled her yuan qi into Su Yi's body. A stream of pure and quiet wood attribute yuan qi flowed into Su Yi's wide meridians like spring water. Bang! With a bang sound, an unparalleled wave of energy rose in front of him. Su Yi's incomparably scorching yuan qi pushed Yunjing far away like a pushing hand. Yunjing turned around in the air like a swallow and stood steadily. Her eyes were full of astonishment. He could clearly sense that there was a terrifying power occupying Su Yi's body. It was like layers of shock waves, endlessly battering his meridians. Rumble! At this moment, the entire barrier shattered under the impact of the boundless force. Even the ice crystal dome began to collapse. The void trembled, and everyone's eyes were filled with shock. An earthquake-like sonic boom resounded in the sky. Li Ling and Xiahong Lu had just stood up when they were once again knocked to the ground. Why aren't you leaving? Do you want me to kill you? Su Yi used his life to exchange for the crimson water heavenly crystal. Get lost. Yunjing turned around and roared. Her eyes were filled with resentment and anger. She stared straight at Li Ling and Xiahong Lu like a knife. Xiahong Lu's expression froze. Li Ling looked hesitantly at the fifth saint. To be honest, Yunjing didn't hate Li Ling. From the fact that Su Yi had brought Xiahong Lu in, it could be seen that Su Yi didn't treat her as an ordinary disciple of the sacred mountain. Yunjing didn't really need to kill them. Fifth saint, let's go. Li Ling's eyes were misty. She took out an elixir and fed it to Xiahong Lu. Her eyes were filled with pain. Xiahong Lu's eyes were filled with longing for the crimson water heavenly crystal. Just as he was about to circulate his yuan qi, he spat out another mouthful of blood. His body couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground. Xiahong Lu gritted his teeth. Blood splattered all over the ground. He pounded the ground with both hands and said fiercely, Su Yi, I hope you're still here in the Tianfeng battle. Li Ling, let's go. Li Ling nodded heavily. She supported Xiahong Lu and nodded at Yunqing. She said softly, Miss, be careful. As soon as she finished speaking, Li Ling's golden light flickered. The dazzling holy light hit Xiahong Lu's cold face and disappeared without a trace. Chi! Countless ice shards fell on Yunqing's body, cutting her clothes a few times and turning them into flowing water that flew away. Blood and water mixed together. A few strands of hair fell over her eyes. Yunqing's eyes were filled with Su Yi. How could she care about these things? Su Yi, hang in there. You'll be fine. Yunqing stood up. Her palm glowed with yuan qi. An extremely pure energy reached out to the crimson water heavenly crystal and entered her arms. Oh my God, you finally have the crimson water heavenly crystal. The iron soulfish in the entrance was also extremely weak. You are the iron soulfish? Yunqing asked with a frown. Yes, I refined the remnant heavenly crystal. That's why I can talk to you through it. Su Yi has already lost his consciousness. Let's bring him out first. Listen to me. The iron soulfish also felt an extremely uncomfortable force. All right. Yin Qing stood up and gathered her yuan qi on her palm. She summoned the wood spiritual god behind her again. A long beam whizzed out and placed Su Yi on the wood spiritual god's palm. Slash! As soon as the wood spiritual god caught Su Yi, the miniature sun on the wood spiritual god's palm emitted waves of water vapor. The wood spiritual god cried out and struggled to hold on. Little wood, hang in there. It's going to end soon. Yin Qing's yuan qi surged again and hit the wood spiritual god's palm as she spoke softly. Save me. Young lady, save me. I have no enmity with Su Yi. Yin Qing looked over and saw Wang Chuanda lying on the ground with his legs smashed by the ice crystals. He was crying out with difficulty. She was instantly enraged. You old bastard. Since Su Yi hates you so much, you must have done something to him. Yin Qing rebuked angrily. After thinking for a while, she still placed him on the wood spiritual god's palm. Yin Qing stepped on Wang Chuanda's body. The wood spiritual god exerted its strength and leaped high into the air, breaking through the dome and connecting with the moon. The night sky was high, and the moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. A huge green figure with a small head and a big body appeared. Its whole body was green like jade. Its sturdy muscles supported Yin Qing and the others firmly. Find a place close to the moon with rich water attribute. Little girl, hurry. Okay. Yin Qing, who was sitting on the wood spiritual god's palm, spread out her spiritual sense and pointed into the distance. She took a few hundred feet with each step. Soon, they disappeared into the boundless night. In the blink of an eye, the green figure drifted and jumped out of the 100-grass mountain. It went straight to the mountains in the southeast, far away from the central province. Chapter 1565. Mist covered the mountains and rivers. Under the curtain of night, the mountain forest towered. Layers upon layers of trees, under the baptism of the moonlight, were like endless waves of ink orchid wheat, mysterious and dense, tranquil and elegant. Meanwhile, the distant central continent city was brightly lit, full of noise. There were sounds of house to house searching everywhere, as well as the sounds of women and children crying and crying. The smoke signals that filled the air were incomparably brilliant, dazzling with golden light. The long line of lanterns decorated the entire city with brilliant colors. Everyone knew that tonight, the 100-grass mountain would be covered in blood. Tonight, Central Continent City would not be peaceful. Looking to the right, the 100-grass mountain was quickly accumulating, and the dark clouds that seemed heavy were already slowly dispersing. Looking down from above, one could see that the entire mountain forest was in shambles. There were traces of flames everywhere, as well as the remains of barbarian fiends and cultivators. Meanwhile, the smell of blood was pungent and unpleasant, engulfing the entire world, carried by the wind into the distance. Hong Hong, on a certain lofty cloud peak, the cliffs were immediately overflowing with silver radiance. A torrential waterfall poured down from the mountain peak like a silver river, immediately producing thousands of waves when it landed at the foot of the mountain. The sparkling water droplets were hazy, appearing even more hazy under the moonlight. Walala! The sparkling and translucent water droplets wetted the cliffs. Within the cave behind the waterfall, a shadow's gaze was bleak. It glanced at the noise in the distance and sighed softly. Immediately after, with a wave of its arm, would attribute vital energy directly produced a barrier of vital energy from its palm, covering the entire cave. It no longer looked in Central Continent's direction, turning around and entering the cave. Hong! The vital energy around its body seemed to have grabbed at the void, covering the small, moist space like a lid. Immediately, the cave was filled with incomparably fresh would attribute vital energy, a green expanse, extremely pleasant. Ah, save me. An elder collapsed in a corner of the wall, currently howling bitterly in endless pain. Looking at the mysterious method the woman used just now, his face revealed shock. He begged. "Young lady, please do me a favor and let me go. Please treat my legs. I am about to die." The one wailing and screaming was Wang Chuanda, who was brought out by Yun Jing. Wang Chuanda's face was deathly pale, and his legs were bleeding profusely. His exposed legs had turned purple due to the bleeding. It was extremely terrifying. He kept looking at Yun Jing, hoping that Yun Jing could save his life. Bang! Yun Jing furrowed her brows and kicked out a stone from under her feet. It was like a small piece of shrapnel that landed directly on Wang Chuanda's head. Another streak of blood shot into the sky. Wang Chuanda was smashed to the point where he was seeing stars. He lay on the ground, moaning in pain. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. His eyes, which were glued to the ground, turned cold and gloomy. He glared at Yun Jing and didn't dare to say another word. "If you keep looking at me, I'll dig your eyes out too," Yun Jing reprimanded. When Wang Chuanda heard this, he used his right hand to cover his eyes. He was afraid that Yun Jing would do as she said. Seeing that there was no response for a long time, he sneaked a peek through the gaps between his fingers. It turned out that Yun Jing was staring nervously at Su Yi, who was lying on the ground. After a while, Yun Jing's essence qi surged and formed a wood element whirlpool in front of her. Suddenly, a violent wind blew, and a strong wave filled the entire cave. Immediately, the temperature in the cave became warm. Yun Jing was trying to use this method to lower Su Yi's body temperature. Hiss, hiss. Milky white gas constantly rose from Su Yi's skin. Su Yi's entire body was shrouded in light. The scorched black cracks were surging with red light. It was incomparably hot. Even the stone that he was lying on was melted, forming a dent that was the same size as Su Yi's body. It was a ghastly sight. Wang Chuanda sneered. He was very happy that Su Yi was injured. "What are you laughing at?" At this moment, the cave was very quiet. Yun Jing turned her head and said fiercely, "Nothing, nothing." Wang Chuanda was very afraid of Yun Jing. He trembled and struggled to explain. Su Yi wanted to bring him along even if he died. He must have his reasons. Yun Jing couldn't just kill him directly. "Old thing, you're an eyesore. You should go into the space bag," Yun Jing said coldly. Boom! In the cave, a green light flickered. Before Wang Chuanda could react, he was directly put into Yun Jing's space bag. Suddenly, the entire cave became quiet. Only the sound of essence qi surging around Su Yi's body and the sound of water dripping could be heard. Drip, drip, drip. The moist air was accompanied by the dim light. Yun Jing's face was very melancholic. She pursed her lips tightly and breathed heavily. She didn't know what to do. Looking at Su Yi, who was lying on the ground, Yun Jing muttered to herself for a while. Then, her hand gradually reached for her neck. "Girl, do you really want to do this?" The iron soulfish's weak voice was transmitted again. It filled the void. "What?" Yun Jing was startled and asked. A sigh echoed in the small dark cave. The soulfish said faintly, "It's not worth it to trade a life for a life. Be careful, girl." Yun Jing's face changed. A trace of sadness flashed in the depths of her eyes. In her mind, an image flashed. It was also an old man who said to Yun Jing, "A life for a life. Girl, how many lives do you have to trade?" "I don't care." The Yun Jing in the cave and the Yun Jing in her mind said the same thing. Her face was also filled with determination. Yun Jing's beautiful face was once again filled with tears. Her brows were tightly knitted together as she sank into endless sorrow. "I don't want him to die. I don't want Su Yi to die." Yun Jing sobbed. At this moment, her heart was completely revealed. Her watery eyes were filled with tears. After a while, Yun Jing's eyes froze. She wiped her tears and said softly, Soulfish, what do you know?" The iron soulfish chuckled. Then it coughed violently. It seemed to be in a state of extreme vacuum. It said casually, "I've lived for almost 10,000 years. What do I not know? Tell me honestly, the pearl on your neck is not much worse than the crimson water heavenly crystal, right?" Yun Jing was stunned. The iron soulfish's words were shocking. It held the wood-colored green pearl on its neck tightly and was stunned. Oomph. It's hard to find a primordial crystal stone of the 5 elements plus the wind and lightning energy. This pearl of yours is most likely the wood Ean's soul crystal. And this time, this kid got the crimson water heavenly crystal of the water element. The world is so big. The 7 types of vitality are born from the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The 7 types of heavenly crystals are the most primitive water elemental crystals after the separation of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. They are born from and nurtured by heaven and earth. When I said that you guys have great luck, I wasn't talking nonsense. I admit you're right, Yin Jing said softly. She wanted to continue listening. Chapter 1566. After a while, the iron soulfish, who was already very weak in the entrance, continued to speak. I didn't tell this kid everything because his cultivation is still too low. Saying too much would only do him more harm than good. I'm just an insignificant existence in the ancient demon race. 10,000 years ago, the demon race perished and the gods disappeared. The whereabouts of the 7 crystals that originally belonged to the gods are unknown. After so many years, the second most important inheritance of the gods, the 7 crystals, appeared in such a low-level plane. It's really miraculous. This kid still has the aura of the phoenix and the golden dragon on his body. Since the items of the gods are scattered here, he must be a person of great fortune. This is the reason why I've been guarding him for 5,000 years. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let him reincarnate so easily. What else do you know? Yun Jing's body trembled. The iron soulfish actually didn't want to say these words. The 7 crystals each have their own functions. The crimson water crystal is soft and traceless. It turns into a formless path that flows in the sea, mountains, and rivers. The wood soul pearl is fresh and natural. It nourishes the growth of all things in the world. It's the root of life. The reason I'm telling you this is so that you can consider it carefully. There's a limit to life, and there's also a limit to death. Presumably, there's a limit to the usage of your wood soul pearl. The iron soulfish meant that the 7 crystals each had their own special abilities. The crimson water crystal could be used to hide its aura. It could evolve in a myriad of ways and become one with the world. The wood soul pearl nourished all things in the world and could bring any life back to life. With such a miraculous use, the wood soul pearl couldn't be used endlessly. Yes, it can only be used 3 times. Yin Jing's heart trembled. A trace of hesitation flashed across her face. You've already used it once before, right? The iron soulfish sighed. Yin Jing's body surged with air. Her butterfly eyebrows slightly curved, but she didn't comment. Sigh. Although I'm living in this kid's body, he's naturally stubborn. We'll eventually part ways. We might even become enemies in the future. Are you sure you still want to save him? You've already used it once before. Yin Jing didn't even think about it. Her eyes filled with tears again. Her delicate and charming face was resolute. Of course, I want to save him. I want to save him even if I have to die. I feel terrible seeing him like this. The iron soulfish laughed dryly and shook his head. His hoarse voice was filled with relief as he softly said, "No one is perfect, and even demons are evil. Being able to meet you 2 little fellows is enough to comfort my entire life. I don't know how many lifetimes of luck this brat has accumulated to let him meet you." Yun Jing's eyes flickered, and a trace of shyness flashed across her face. Bits and pieces of the past few days with Sue suddenly surged into her heart. When we first met and removed my makeup, I felt like I had known him for a very long time. It had only been a few days, but it felt like hundreds of years had passed between the 2 of us. We had only followed him into the Holy Mountain Academy, but it felt like we had gone from life to death. There are always inexplicable entanglements. Perhaps this is what you humans call fate. The iron soulfish's eyes sparkled. Really? But I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Yin Jing was startled. There is no right or wrong in this world. You just asked the Holy Mountain Girl to fight for him, but you are hesitating here. What do you think you are doing? You don't have to be so melancholic. There is actually another way to save him." Hearing this, Yunjing cried out excitedly. She couldn't wait to know. "Please tell me." "Girl, you've always only had with elemental energy. I know you want to hide some things, but you're also a water elemental energy user. You can still refine this crimson water heavenly crystal." The iron soulfish seemed to know everything as it spoke in a deep voice. Phew! Yunjing seemed to be relieved of a heavy burden. She was in a daze as she bit her lips. In the end, she still decided to speak to the iron soulfish. "I came to Middle Province to look for the crimson water heavenly crystal, but I changed my mind after meeting Su Yi. I always felt that he was more important than the crimson water heavenly crystal. Indeed, meeting you will make his life even more magnificent from now on. Maybe he will become the most unique existence in this world." The iron soulfish shook its head slightly, and then its voice became even weaker. Yunjing was silent. She looked at Su Yi lying on the ground, and her heart clenched. On the other side, the iron soulfish's voice was about to disappear when it spoke again like a gentle breeze. "The energy in this kid's body is too majestic. The golden dragon chi and the mysterious aura are both pure and yang elemental energies. In addition, the phoenix blood essence is stirring them up. At this moment, several types of elemental energies are constantly attacking his body. If his physical strength and meridians weren't strong enough, he would have exploded and died in the barrier. Fortunately, the quality of his soul is extremely high, and he has persevered until now. Then what can I do?" Yunjing's eyes were gloomy as she asked. "Girl, refine the crimson water heavenly crystal. Use your primordial yin body to envelop his primordial yang body. If you combine yin and yang several times and harmonize heaven and earth, the two surging energies will cancel each other out. Not only will he survive, but the two of you will also reap great benefits." How can I do that?" After hearing the iron soulfish's suggestion, Yunjing's expression changed greatly. Her entire body was flushed red, and she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. "The two of you already have feelings for each other. What's wrong with that? One life for one life, or both of you. You should make the decision quickly. I don't have much time left, and my life is in your hands, girl." Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, a faint energy disappeared from the cave entrance. Ripples spread out, and the surrounding space suddenly became light and ethereal. Following that, the surroundings returned to silence, and only the sound of heartbeats could be heard. Plop, plop. Yunjing's eyes were misty, and her charming face was flushed red. Her heart was beating wildly, and she was lying horizontally next to Su Yi. A scorching heat quietly crept onto Yunjing's skin, and her graceful waist trembled slightly. Looking at Su Yi, whose eyebrows were tightly knitted and whose entire body was flushed red, Yunjing's body also started to heat up. Sparkling and translucent beads of sweat were already dripping down her snow-white face in large droplets under the rising temperature. "Su Yi, do you really like me?" Yunjing's heart was pounding. Looking at Su Yi, her eyes were filled with deep love. As soon as Yunjing asked this question, the redness spread to her earlobes. Her entire face was like a bud in the snow, tender and beautiful. After a while, Su Yi's painful groan was heard. Yunjing slowly exhaled a deep breath. Her expression was firm, and her hazy eyes were filled with Su Yi's incomparably red handsome face. Yunjing's fragrant cheeks were whiter than snow, and the fragrance of sandalwood came out of her mouth. She bent down and whispered into Su Yi's ears, "Su Yi, you have to remember me forever." After she finished speaking, Yunjing raised her head, and with a wave of her forearm, her body was gradually filled with a soft green glow of vitality. The sash of her clothes gradually widened, and a satin long dress gently slid down her fair and tender skin. Chapter 1567. In less than a breath's time, Yunjing was already completely naked. Her snow-white skin was accompanied by an extremely seductive curve as it appeared before Suyi's eyes. Instantly, the entire cave was filled with the unique fragrance of a young girl. Yunjing's heart was timid as she pursed her lips and lowered her eyes. Within the cave, the dim light enveloped it. Her fragile waist was like a willow branch swaying in the wind. In her shyness, Yunjing gently pulled Suyi's hands up and placed them on her slender waist. She gently used her soft hands, and the crimson water, heavenly crystal, rose from the ground. It emitted an extremely bright white light between a bright and beautiful ravine. The bright light and the waterfall outside blended together. The heavenly crystal turned into a string of silver-white water droplets that were engraved on her body. Her skin that was attached to the flowing light gradually melted. Qila, the beautiful and dreamy water attribute vitality light tightly enveloped Yunjing, who was like a banished fairy. A mischievous moan flowed out from Yunjing's clear throat. The crimson water heavenly crystal's immense energy instantly filled Yunjing's thousands of meridians. Her green blood vessels were clear and blue. Her entire body was glistening with water. The droplets of light made her look dreamy and fairy-like. Qila. Suyi's clothes had already melted into ashes due to the extremely hot aura. They were blown away by the wind. His muscular chest was exposed. A masculine aura came from him. Su-yi, who was panting heavily, was like a ferocious beast that was about to pounce on her at any time. His aura was fierce. Yunjing's face was flushed without any makeup. She gently pressed the jade-like cream cheese tightly against Su-yi's chest. After that, every water droplet turned into a witness of the two of them intertwining. Wisps of mist rose and formed a circular white light around the two of them. It was exceptionally flawless. Yunjing's eyes were soft and gentle like snow. They were as clear as a spring. Under the dense atmosphere, she slowly closed her eyes and enjoyed the extreme beauty at this moment. Sui. Yunjing's eyes were misty as she called out softly. Sui gradually regained consciousness. His breathing became heavier. Jinger. Suyi's cries of pain gradually turned into low growls of anger. Yudi, who was in his arms, felt like thousands of ants were itching him. It was as if he could only find a place to put himself. In the blink of an eye, Suyi's expression changed slightly when he saw that Yunjing's face had changed into another one with seductive eyes and starry eyes. Qinxue, Suyi called softly. Sui, I like you. Qinshue's figure was tall and slender. Similarly, she whispered into Suyi's ears. She was indescribably charming. Who? Ling Qinshue's eyes lit up, and in the blink of an eye, her face turned back into Lu Ruoxi's dewy eyelashes, leaving only a few ripples in her eyes. Lu Ruoxi's delicate face was crimson, and her lips were slightly pursed into a smile. She looked like a graceful fairy amidst the morning mist as she hugged Su-yi tightly and murmured, Su-yi, it was all a misunderstanding back then. I've always missed you. Su-yi's gaze changed again. Once again, the face in front of him turned into Yunjing's face. In the midst of her seductive and graceful appearance, her pearly white teeth parted slightly. Her breathing was like a warm breeze, and it tugged at Su-yi's heartstrings. In the end, Su-yi gradually succumbed to her. He ran into the dense forest that was like mist and sparse rain. Whoosh! Outside the forest, the resting barbaric beasts flapped their wings and flew high into the sky. The waterfall that flowed down was even more turbulent than when it came. Time was like a rapidly spinning gear. The flowing water flowed along the trajectory of time, rippling with excitement. As the icy blue-crimson heavenly crystal collided with each other, it turned into specks of light that flowed into the mysterious ball of light in Su-yi's body. Boom! The mysterious ball of light in Su-yi's body continuously condensed into a small and rapid vortex. Layers of energy ripples spread out. Wave after wave, they turned into violent winds that swept through the world of yin and yang. Under the canopy of the sky, the lush mountains surrounded by peaks continued to sway. The undulating mountain range seemed to have become a hotbed for a couple. At this moment, in the forest extremely far away, a few small figures were rushing toward the cliff of the waterfall with lightning speed. The leader of the group, Little Black, had a scar on his face. He was especially fast. Like lightning, he shouted loudly, "Hurry! Young Mistress is over there." Young Mistress is definitely involved in the great changes in the 100 Mountain today. Let's go quickly. Protect Young Mistress. Yes. The few people behind him responded in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, his voice traveled rapidly through the lush forest like a stream of light. The leader was Little Black Robe. Little Black Robe's eyes flickered. "Young Mistress, why is there another ring missing from your restriction?" Little Black Robe clutched tightly to an incomparably dark green jade stone in his hand. It was suffused with a mystical light. Originally, there were 3 streaks of blood on the jade stone. The dazzling bloody light was now only left with 1 streak of bloody light. "Nothing must happen, Young Mistress. Little Black Robe will be here soon. Hang in there." Boom! A few rays of Origin Emperor Realm cultivation lit up again. They rushed into the distance like a hurricane. The forest suddenly seemed to have been hit by a natural disaster. Wherever they passed, the vegetation would fall. An incomparably huge ravine would appear. The sun suddenly rose, the mountains rolled up, and the clouds still covered the rocks. The faintly discernible clouds shrouded the hills. It was as enchanting and dreamy as the previous night, giving people a feeling of endless mystery. Unknowingly, a golden red sun rose unwillingly from the ridge of the mountain. The forest surged and was dyed with an extremely gorgeous glow by the morning light. The world was exceptionally beautiful. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com. Wonderful Book Mobile Edition website, .com. Chapter 1568. Between the veil and the cliff, Yun Jing, who was wearing a green veil, sat on the cliff like a fairy. Looking at the dazzling blue sky, Yun Jing dissolved her body into the warmth of nature for the last time. A trace of sadness was hidden in her bright eyes. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the forest below shook. The loud noise was like a ferocious beast moving forward. Leaves flew with the wind. Yun Jing's jade-like legs kept swinging, kicking away clouds one after another. Her cleavage moved back and forth between her clothes. She looked up and exclaimed softly, "I still have to leave. We should meet again, right?" Yun Jing's red lips smiled faintly. A teardrop flowed down her cheek and floated in the air. Boom! The icy blue Yuan Qi light surged, and the Yuan Qi that was much stronger than before directly turned into a storm that covered the sky and shrouded him. After the storm, a beautiful woman in a green dress suddenly appeared on the cliff. Looking back at the cave that was enveloped by the wood element, she was reluctant to part with Su Yi. He was sleeping peacefully with Yun Jing's green gown gently covering him. Bang! Her tall legs, coupled with her beautiful figure, made her look like a fairy gifted by nature. With a slight movement of her waist, she jumped off the cliff and flew towards the forest in the distance. Little Black Robe and the others raised their heads in alarm when they saw the graceful figure in the distance. They immediately stopped and half knelt in the air as they called out, "Master, Master." "Welcome, eldest miss." Yun Jing's eyes narrowed. She said to everyone, "Rise." The aura around her body was even better than when she was in the 100 Herbs enchantment. The yellow-haired Little Black Robe emitted a bright light, and he said in surprise, "Congratulations, eldest young lady. Your cultivation has increased by 1 level. You've reached the 2nd level of the Yuan domain realm. If Lord knew, he would definitely be overjoyed." It's been 4 years. Eldest Miss has finally broken through again. Little Black Robe behind him cheered. According to the levels of martial cultivators, they were divided into 10 stages of martial cultivation. Qi Refining Stage, Foundation Establishment Stage, Yuan Soul Stage, Yuan Profound Stage, Yuan Spirit Stage, Yuan Jun Stage, Yuan Void Stage, Yuan Emperor Stage, and Yuan Zong Stage. Once one reached the Yuan Zong Stage, one would be able to affect the rules of space and form a domain that belonged solely to oneself. Many people had only reached the Origin Ancestor realm after spending their entire lives trying. As the Origin Ancestor realm masters, they were already top experts in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. Even Elder Su and Elder Lu were the 9th level of the Origin Ancestor realm and were still some distance away from reaching the half-step Origin Domain realm. Moreover, there were very few people who could cultivate to the Origin Domain realm. They were existences that were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns in the entire 10 forces. Yunjing had actually reached the Origin Domain realm at the young age of 20. How could they not be afraid? It was said that once one reached the Origin Domain realm, one would be able to explore the heavenly Tao and move mountains and seas. One would possess the ability to reach the heavens, and one would be able to transform freely within one's domain. One would become the master of the spatial laws and completely control the laws. However, to this day, no one knew what the realm above the Origin Domain realm was, and whether there was a limit to one's martial cultivation, and no one had reached it. It was said that demons had heavenly tribulations, while demons had reincarnation. No one in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean could give an accurate answer as to what kind of trials and tribulations humans would experience. If Su-Yi could wake up now, he would most likely faint from shock. Previously, Yunjing had borrowed the power of the wood spirit crystal to save Su-Yi, and her cultivation had dropped by a large realm. That was why Su-Yi had been able to pry into Yunjing's realm and mistakenly thought that she was only at the 1st level of the Origin Ancestor realm. Now, because she had refined the Crimson Water Sky crystal, her cultivation had recovered and actually returned to the legendary Origin Domain realm. Moreover, she had even made a huge breakthrough. When she heard that, there was no trace of joy in Yunjing's eyes. Instead, there was some sadness in them. So what if I'm at the Origin Domain realm? So what if I made a breakthrough? I'd rather retreat to the Origin Ancestor realm and stay by his side. Yunjing thought in her heart as a sense of sadness rolled over her like waves. Eldest young lady, I can feel that your blood soul seal is missing. Why is it? Little Black Robe was panting heavily, and his anxiety was evident in his words. After some thought, he immediately knelt down and asked in a low voice. Yunjing raised her eyes slightly, her expression frosty as she replied coldly, "How did you know?" Little Black Robe paused and took out a blood soul sealed jade pendant. He lowered his head and said, "When I left a few years ago, the Honorable Lord sent someone to hand this jade pendant to me. He ordered us to bring you home no matter what if the blood soul seal disappeared again. No wonder Grandmother Yunra left me 3 drops of blood." Yunjing suddenly understood. All the little black robes behind her knelt down. They were extremely terrified as they stared at Yunjing anxiously and muttered softly, "That's right. Eldest young lady, please come home with us. Eldest young lady, the Honorable Lord is very worried about you. All these years, he has sent us a summons every month. We were afraid that you would be unhappy, so we never dared to tell you. Eldest young lady, if the blood soul seal disappears and we can't bring you home within 10 days, we will all die." Bang! Yunjing's long sleeve shook as she took a light step forward. True Qi surged out from her body and a halo of energy shot out. The vast and turbulent water attribute energy shook the sky and earth. Winds and clouds surged in mid-air as thunder boomed. "How dare they?" Yunjing reprimanded angrily. The little black robes felt the aura from Yunjing's body and were extremely shocked. Previously, when Yunjing's strength was at the 1st stage of the Origin Domain realm, she would not have such a majestic water attribute energy with just a raise of her hand. What would a strong water attribute energy, eldest young lady? The little black robes knelt down on the ground. Such a huge pressure made them unable to raise their bodies. Boom! Seeing everyone's reaction, Yunjing seemed to be frightened by her own vast aura. Her figure was graceful as she immediately retracted her yuan qi. She quickly regained her composure and said softly, "I know. I will go back with you. You all leave first. I will catch up with you all at the Imperial Palace's secret teleportation station later." Everyone was extremely happy when they heard this. However, the yellow-haired little black-robed man's eyes glowed as he took a step forward and probed. "Eldest young lady, is there anything else? Do you need me to help you deal with it? There are some things that are better done by subordinates." Yin Jing's jade-green ripples immediately rippled as she replied, "No need. This matter has to be done by me. You all leave first." The yellow-haired little black robe looked meaningfully in the direction Yin Jing came from. He felt that there was a familiar aura there. After pondering for a moment, he ordered everyone, "Go. Eldest young lady knows what to do." Whoosh whoosh. Just as he finished speaking, the yellow-haired little black robe brought everyone and left quickly. Yin Jing took a deep look at the cave Su-Yi was in and said softly, "Su-Yi, I hope we can meet again." Immediately after, Yun Jing also left the vast forest and turned into a wisp of light as she flew into the distance. At this moment, within the cave, the sound of water droplets was endless. The moist air was like a dreamy bubble, like a beautiful dream. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.